Hello and welcome here, everyone. We are set for another Aegis Champions League matchup. We are in the playoffs, and now we are headed into the lower bracket quarterfinals. I'm very excited to be here on the Salt Mine. We are excited. My name is Orbital. With me is Jack. Not the usual faces, but at this point, we might as well be. Jack, how you feeling? Are you excited for today's match?
I'm so excited. We have two incredible rosters here, and I can't think of a better matchup to make my Salt Mine debut on.
It's a good time. It's a good time. We do welcome you here. Of course, right now, tonight, we are getting a matchup between two teams that are actively fighting that made it into the quarters of the winner's side and now are facing elimination. It will be a BO3. You know what that means? All games matter. Let's go ahead and take a look. It is Esports going up against Pookie Bear. Both squads looking for a bit of redemption here on the day, and I'm very excited to see what they can throw down.
Yeah, absolutely. And these are pretty dynamic rosters when you look at what each team brings. One squad, you've got a lot of people who are veterans to this scene, this tier three scene, and played in a lot of these tournaments. Where on the other side, you've got ex LCS pros, you've got guys who've been in tier two, being in the academy scene, and I'm sure some guys maybe still looking for that climb, other guys just having fun playing together in these matchups. So really interested to see how that dynamic shows throughout this matchup.
Yeah, I think they're going to be making a pretty high impact moment here. And of course, the impact comes with making it into the lower bracket semifinals and starting to be able to maybe start fighting with those BO5s. We'll see what can go down as DIT Esports are going to be on that blue side to start things off here in full field. Is Pookie Bear on the red to start, of course. And you can already see the Aurora channeled out and banned, making sure that it ain't going to be in the hands of Sean.
Yeah, it's still such an incredibly strong champion, especially when you've got players who have great mastery on it. The ability to just delete any target at the onset of a fight is really difficult to play around with how objective focused this game has become. It's really hard to fight over a dragon when your ADC is dead in a millisecond because Aurora just hopped over and blew him up. So I'm interested to see that first ban, especially because Pookie Bear are on the red side. So taking away some of these mid laners that maybe aren't B1able, but certainly would be able to get picked up in a first red rotation is, very important to see as we're seeing that Draven taken away from Hums.
Yeah, you gotta respect it at the end of the day. Honestly, it's just a little bit overpowered no, I'm joking. But Hums definitely makes it look very, very good. And for Hamza, I'm wondering if, if it'll ever be released out into the wilds of the Fearless Trap. But at the current moment, we are still focused on a little bit of AP side. Don't want to allow the Nico to go through. Currently, Nico is a flex between mid and support. We've seen some silliness right out there. They just don't want to let it over. So Pookie Bear not getting those AP channeling champions.
Yeah, I think Nico is right now one of the strongest champions in the game. Not as much for that mid lane pressure, but the support role, I mean, it is when you compare it to its prio, it is the highest win rate champion in professional League of Legends right now. It is so strong in support, and I like the draft strategy so far from Pookie. Obviously, that Draven is very specific, but the Varus has proven patch after patch after patch to be the most dynamic B1 pick in the game. You really can put it in any draft. So many different build paths, so many different ways to stay viable throughout the course of the game. So I like these bans so far, and I want to see them try and pinch more of these power picks because while Gwen did receive some nerfs recently, I still think that this Gwen champ is disgusting.
I mean, if you want to go ahead and ban out Gwen, I wouldn't be remiss about it, especially since the Pantheon was banned away. In position 3, you go ahead and say we don't want to deal with it, but it's the Vi instead, so a nice solid lockdown champion dealt away. To Esports, though, I am surprised that you ban out the Pantheon on that blue side. Specifically, we know some teams do like to pick up the Pantheon, just write it out as soon as possible. I know there are some changes, but it still makes sense as a B1 pickup if you wish to get a little bit messy in the jungle, if you wish to lean into that early game a little bit more. At the current moment, though, because they banned it out, there's a lot on the table. You can still go for the jungle route if you wish to get an early jungler. If you wish to pick up a fresh ADC, though, especially for Hamza, especially with the current volatility of a little bit of focus, Pookie Bear is saying, hey, we really don't want the ADC position to be locked down. But for Esports, you're going, nah, we want the Vola Bear. It's a little bit nicer to open things up.
I'm actually surprised with that pick. Armeo has been playing it a lot, and it's the second most played on this account. Obviously, it's a little bit less important to talk about champ play when you're talking about a player who's done this for so long at a professional level. I'm sure that bag is very deep, but shown very recent comfort on the Volibear, so not super shocked. The one thing that I do find surprising is having Hamza here. Lucian Prio has skyrocketed, and not having that, Matt swap, having it 4 minutes, and having ADC actually feel like they can stay in lane for a while, get an advantage there. Lucian has become so readily available. And now, if they want to pick it up, they're in a bad spot because Xin Zhao plays incredibly well into Lucian. You can avoid almost all of his damage, and I'm actually surprised they didn't pick up the Xin Zhao themselves, because I think it really is a champion that allows a lot of proactivity. And pairing that with the Senna, who can scale for a bit and then later on can deal out a ton of damage and keep people alive, I like what Pookie Bear is building so far.
The rise of Senna has also been a huge influx for a lot of teams. I mean, Senna's been very relevant over the last 3-4 patches so far. It's been ridiculous and very annoying in my opinion. I hate Senna with a lot of core of my being in there. So it is going to be that nice alleviation though. Again, whenever you pick up the Senna, it's a twofold. You get the damage, but also you get a little bit extra healing, a little bit of CC. It's nice to have. But for Esports, you are focusing on that mid ADC flex. Go ahead and lock in that core key. I do have a feeling it might go towards that bottom lane. You just, hey, it's a little comfort value. You like grabbing that in the opener. Granted, in the mid lane, considering the matchup in the range, it would make sense to have it in the mid lane just as well. But depending on it, yeah, that is going to be an ADC Corki into the Talia mid. I really don't foresee a Talia jungle here.
Yeah, the Corki's risen in Prio in what feels like just the past couple of days. Throughout the LPL playoffs, I've been seeing it a ton. And I think that might just be with the Senna getting popular. It works really well into Senna having so much damage early in the laning phase through using your abilities. You can really get the push fast. And the Talia blind, I think this is the highest Prio mid laner on the patch still. And seeing the Orianna come in makes total sense. You've got great delivery with Xin Zhao. Also doesn't have any sort of dashes or mobility spells that Talia would easily be able to take advantage of. Able to do well into short range AD carries like Corki. So I like the Orianna pick. I think both teams, they're getting what they want. They've got clear identities and are building towards their comps without much objection so far.
Yeah, and you go ahead and just kind of lock that down, especially with the ban phase number 2 coming about. There's a lot of differences and a lot of focuses, as right now it is pretty much support and top lane that we're looking at to be picked up at the very end here, which is why we're seeing that focus into the Nautilus. You want to drag away, pun intended, a lot of those champions that can lock down the Senna, that can deal a lot of damage to something like an Orianna. And a lot of these frontline engagements that pair well with the likes of a Talia and Volibear engage, so it makes sense. On the flip though, great read by Dis saying, hey, you're going for maybe a little bit longer range. You don't want to face us straight up. Let's go ahead and ban the Jace, which could run an early game advantage if we don't pick appropriately.
Also, it's a great blind. Would allow them to put that support in last pick, get a blindable top laner so they don't have to worry about needing a counter pick there. I like the focus on support bans here, just because Senna can play alongside so much, whereas Corki, you don't typically see Corki with enchanters. You don't really see enchanters with caster AD carries that often, and Senna is extremely versatile in terms of what it can go down there with. So I think Leona and Nautilus would have proven the most difficult, but they've still got a lot to pick up themselves. You've got Rel still available, Rakan is still available, and in these best of threes, the engage support pool gets pinched the fastest. So being able to grab your preferred pick there and not have anyone inhibiting that from them taking it away is really big. As not sure what that other ban was for Dib, but it is. No ban. So they're confident. Okay. Rakan ends up being the pick, and so far the Rakan into Talia can be concerning, but when you've got a low range AD carry and a somewhat immobile jungler that wants to go in, I think Rakan fits in really well here.
Yeah, and especially if you're trying to deter even more follow-up behind. You just have that quickness, you go ahead and taunt everyone up, you charm them, and you say no dice. You don't get to play. But the answer is appropriate. Esports grabbing one of the top supports currently in the meta, will fallen in priority, I think just a tiny bit comparatively, not the all-star slam at B1 and go ham. It is the Rel at the end of the day, so I like it pairing up. But now you got to blind that top lane, and all of a sudden, if you're looking at some of the options, there's obviously quite a few, but the Jace is off the table, so you know there's not going to be a poke. Maybe you could go for a little bit of late game scaling, or if you want a nice match, you could go for a little bit early game. No, they are going to go late game here. A Mundo to walk their own way.
Push. We're getting to push here. And I've seen this work well. I've also seen it be pretty useless. And
Yeah.
you get these games where you're like, wow, Mundo's been farming all game, and then it just gets isolated and killed in a team fight. And you're like, I didn't think that was allowed to happen. The benefit for the Mundo is when you look at Pookie Bear, they don't have a lot of DPS. They don't have a lot of ways to really quickly shred down that Mundo. Senna obviously is a AD carry that can pack a punch, but not a lot of attack speed, really relying on those long-range chunking auto attacks. So with the counter being the Gwen, I was going to say they need that damage in that top lane, and Gwen will have no problem snipping through Dr. Mundo's health bars later on and even early in this game. So it's going to be a lot about dodging that Mundo poke and not allowing Volibear to impact that matchup.
Yeah, I also just had to double check real quick because I know you're talking about Mundo being able to push, and that's being pushed in more ways than one, because we also have seen the rise of Dr. Mundo in some scary cases in the pro leagues as well. You know, the tier 1 positions have been using it to quite good efficiency. I had to double check because I was like, is it Dr. Mundo? Was it? Absolutely, it was. But I like the call out. Once again, bringing the Gwen in, all of a sudden, both teams do have great late game efficiency. For DIT Esports, though, I think they have a little bit more over Pookie Bear. I mean, I don't think Oriana is well known as a high capacity late game champion. It's a lot more about the mid game, a little bit into the late game, but it's all about those shockwaves at the end of the day. So for Pookie Bears, I do think it's riding a little bit on that Gwen and on that Xin Zhao to really get rolling to provide that consistent DPS come team fights.
Yeah, they've got a lot of great dive, but they're going to really rely on Rakan to be that forceful engage. And a lot of times, if the caliber of the player is there, Rakan can make your fights and really just lock those wins down. But if Rakan is more of a follow-up, then you're going to have a lot more difficult situations.
Yeah, of course, as we dive on into this game, we're hopping on in for a little bit of fun. We're going to go ahead and see DIT Esports over there on the blue side. We got Sanchovis, Armeo, as well as Cat Evolved, Hamza, as well as Jason rounding out that blue side.
Yep, and for our red side, we have Pookie Bear, Royal top lane, 4 River, Jungle, Sean in the mid lane, Kita, 80 carry, and Sung Che Woo as our support.
Yeah, we hope we have all those names right. If not, then yell at us in the Twitch chat, because, you know, casters, we're silly, we're dumb. That's what we're here for, right? At the end of the day, we're here just to add a little bit of fun into the entirety of this game and hopefully into this best of 3 series, because you know the players are playing with a little bit of seriousness behind the bank. Right now, they are up on the chopping block for elimination. But for some, it's a little bit more than that, right? You take a look at the fact that I believe for Pookie Bear, they're actually looking for a little bit of revenge options. Right now, Galaxy Gaming is on the other side of the bracket going up against NLE. And if Galaxy Gaming are able to win and Pookie Bears are able to win, it would be a matchup in the lower semifinals of the upper quarters that actually put Pookie Bears into the lower bracket in the first place.
Yeah, and that does come with somewhat of an advantage. You've seen a lot of teams in pretty much every tournament style. They make these long lower bracket runs where they're able to take advantage of the fact that they got beat by the team they're now rematching and are able to learn from that previous matchup. And I feel like you learn a lot more when you come from the losing end, because you take it much more seriously. Whereas if you're the team that won, you might just think, oh, well, we won. There isn't a lot to learn from it. But if you're the team that got beat, you're going to look back and say, why did that happen? Analyze it a lot more efficiently and utilize the momentum you're gaining from this lower bracket, from these much more high pressure matchups to your advantage.
Of course, that translates hopefully into a couple of victories, because for the other side, it's somewhat of the same, however, a much higher hurdle to reach. For DIT Esports, he got knocked down by Citadel. Of all squads, the #1 team that's currently in the winners finals is like, I want a chance of revenge. Your road's a little bit longer, quite possibly. Either it's going to be in the lower finals or in the grands. It's one way or another. Taking a look into this game, though, we're seeing a little bit of a simple start to the game. This is about as quiet can be. Opposite side starts for both junglers. Blue side for both, I believe. So, you know, it's going to be that that pacing at the end of the day.
Yep, opposite directions, but for the moment at least, Xin Zhao is going for a little bit of a cheeky 3-camp clear into gank, looking for options, heading mid lane now, but I think he's going to be there a little late, so maybe an invade is in the question?
Didn't even have to look for the gank because Catavald was forced away Sean with great bullying tactics, which we know an Orianna can do very well at the start. That ball movement, if you're not careful, plus the auto attack ramp up, very, very well done.
Yeah, and that's one of the reasons that this Orianna pick is so strong into Taliyah. A lot of Taliyah's early game damage is built around that Unraveled Earth being able to stun and deal extra damage to champs with movement abilities. Orianna has no movement abilities, so able to just walk straight up and take advantage of that damage, inherent damage buff that they have on that passive. And I want to return to a point I mentioned in the draft, talking about how Rakan is going to be very necessary for the game, and it really comes down to the caliber of the player. Seeing that unsealed spellbook as the keystone. Ooh. Hold on a minute.
Oh my god, what a jump on in. Hamza says, I want the kill, and Kita has no way out. Hamza auto-attacks a minion just cuz. First blood there in the bottom lane. Well done to Esports.
Yeah, I was saying, this Corki matchup into Senna, any caster AD carry is going to do so well into this long scaling, low early game damage AD carry pick. You just have so much more in your kit at this stage in the game. The phosphorus bombs, I mean, just putting out so much damage, and even just turning on your E, the armor shred this early in the game is going to really, really hurt and make those fights. So it doesn't matter if you've got Unsealed Spellbook this early in the game. You're not able to access that keystone, whereas Conqueror procs, Aftershock comes through for the Rel. You really can't do any damage in return, so there's no chance of getting any kills for your own end. So really well played there by the bottom line of Di.
It's not just that, it's also the fact that Kita, I mean, it's a Senna, right? You still need a little bit of time to really bring the oomph. I mean, the whole thing about it is scaling, and if the early ability chunks, it's not as big as a Corki, so just well read by DIT Esports, but is it going to translate to even more? That's what we want to see. First kill went over great. You need even more than that. We need to see even more forces from the rest of the team if they want to kind of bank on this as well. At the current moment, though, jungles are relatively cleared out. We're seeing a split, though, around that jungle, around that dragon, I should say, because right now it is going to be the likes of Pookie Bear that are trying to get some wards down. And I actually really, really like this call. You go ahead and get some wards down, try and get information on where Perry is currently lying, and see if you can catch him on rotation.
Yeah, would have had the good ability to get the catch there. Also, they don't really have the damage to take this dragon right now, and they certainly don't have the push in the bot lane, as you see. So being able to get some deep vision down would have given them early indicators that that dragon's being started for the other side. And as we are quickly approaching 8 minutes, I know we're a little bit of ways away now, but having that information early allows you to quickly get the cross map, get something for yourselves in return, as River is sitting here mid-bush trying to see if they can make a play. Despite that early flash being forced, a lot of damage coming through. I mean, this Rakan is playing so aggressively, but they just haven't really seen any benefits from that yet.
I mean, I would agree, and mainly that is because of a chance, but that's going to be the shockwave in landing. Catvault already burned the flash, which means you're running for your life. A final QW as Sean brings the pain. He's a catch in the mid, as that allows Sean and for River to hunt inside the jungle.
Really well done there, because they had no vision of the Xin Zhao, so you're never expecting Orianna to just rock up and hit Shockwave. Let's flash forward here.
I mean, we say that, but there's going to be the crash down, and Song not going to enjoy that one. Shay is gone. That is going to be Hamza gathering even more. One more auto attack should take it. Yes, they do. That's going to be a total of 3 for Hamza here on the Corki. Might even get another. One more auto attack in the queue might do it, but a nice stun en route. Kita able to get away with their life, and Sean picks up their second. But another crash down into the moved earth and the stone, shoving Sean into their doom. Well done overall in the early skirmish. Overall, though, it is DE Esports to come away with that victory.
Yeah, I feel like they got way more on that end, not only because of all the kills going into Corki's pocket and Taliyah getting that one in the end. Those are your really only damage carries, so that extra gold is going to go a long ways towards getting them to their spikes. But on the other side, no kills going on to Senna. Rakan picked up that early kill in the fight, so that's, having the Kindle gem is nice on Rakan, as they've been playing very, very aggressively, but you'd much rather be getting Senna towards that static shiv, towards the Black Cleaver. And that's a good point to actually touch on now, is what Senna really allows for your team. With that quick Black Cleaver, being able to be purchased and stacked by Senna, it allows other champions like Xin Zhao to build a little bit more greedy, get some more damage, or index into tank a little bit earlier, and provides for a very dynamic build for the rest of your teammates.
Yeah, not just that, it's the fact that you're also being a little bit a bit of a disadvantage. You take a look at that. We just mentioned that Kita is currently sitting, you know, at 0-1 and 2. Well, you look at the opposite side, and Hamza was able to pick up 3 kills in that. Not only that, an extra assist on the back line. You're already like a quarter or more, more like about 2/3 of the way into your top side item. But that's gonna be top side where we actually watch that come through as a Royal goes absolutely ham with a double kill. Nasty pickup plus the dragon. A 3-piece combo for the price of free.
I mean, that was like the worst time they could have ganked. Gwen had already started using that needlework, had the extra damage built in, used that snip, was already prepared, and Perry just kind of ults under tower to donate that kill over. Sanchovy is already using so many abilities, didn't have anything left to take us. Look for another gank here.
I think I like that call. 4River actually diving onto Jason, saying, "Hey, Redemption, you got to be out of here." For Hamza, I mean, everything is kind of riding on you now with that loss on the top side and the mid lane a little bit even, right? You're taking a look at Evolve with 1 kill, but Sean, of course, sitting on 2. It feels like it's a little bit on Hamza on this Corki to really make that continued snowball.
Yeah, especially when you consider the team makeup for them, Talia, Corki, really your only damage threats once we get to this mid and late game, whereas for Kita and Sean isn't going to be relied on for damage past the mid game. Senna obviously will be a big necessity, but this Gwen is only going to get stronger and stronger. Just getting donated 2 kills is going to escalate how strong the Gwen will be early, as again, very, very aggressive here, playing right on the edge, and so far it's been punished in terms of taking a lot of damage and limiting the ability to be aggressive for the rest of the lane, but hasn't gotten killed for it. I spoke too soon.
Yeah, I mean, that was an exhaust and ult utilized here, but Hamza is out. Same with Jason. I think for Jason, you're holding on for a larger share. I mean, only level 5, so you can't use that Magnet Storm. Now you hit it, but of course Hamza is out of mana and out of HP, so you go ahead and recall, but nicely done to go ahead and maintain a CS lead, currently about 15 and counting.
Yeah, they're standing on a ward right now, so it's a bit unfortunate. They're trying to do the fake back, but the main purpose that Rakan keeps going for these engages is just trying to give Senna some room to breathe. CS under tower right now at quite the CS deficit, and with no mana, it's going to be even harder to wave clear, not having access to that Searing Dawn. So, much more difficult. But now, having some breathing room, Rakan able to buy them plenty of space. Going to look to stop these recalls. Knows exactly where Hums is most likely backing, so stops that recall right away. That's going to stop their ability to come back and maybe equalize this XP advantage that has been able to bump up right now. And with Senna getting towards that early stack count, I think it's around 14 minutes, you expect to be around like 40-ish. Right now at 29, so pretty on track to hit that number at this point.
Yeah, just keep in that same pacing as we see the supports duke it over a pink ward that has actually been fought over, I think, 3 times now. I believe that's the first pink ward for, or maybe only the second, but for Di, I mean, that ward has seen better days, but it's nice to see it cut out. Right now, Royal, though, cutting through Sanchovis for a little bit. Third proc of the needlework slices, and Royal is now on a killing spree. The triple giants ain't working for Sanchovis right now.
Yeah, it doesn't matter how many belts you have. That Gwen has a Rift Maker. She's going to tear through your health bar. I love the decision to go Cull here. I mean, even, some AP champs, you'd think, well, it's not really useful, but you're auto-attacking so often, you're able to push this wave in over and over again, so you can really take advantage of that aggressive wave state as they're kind of baiting this dive to happen. They want to fight. They got the numbers.
Yeah, they do, but they're a little bit spread out, and that's the quickness to come right back. Now the shockwave into 2, and all of a sudden, it is that crushing blow, like you called it, was a bait and a half, but the damage is actually on either side. A final call, though, from Kita, as it is going to be a chunk out in a half. A little bit of a missed call, but the damage thresholds are met as it's a 4-for-1 in favor of Pookie Bear, hugging them to death.
they really banked on the indecisiveness from Dib because they were in that jungle bush and they couldn't decide. It was Perry and Jason. They couldn't decide if they wanted to go down and dive the turret on just the bot lane or turn and fight the Xin Zhao. And in that timing, you had Sean able to get into such a great position to hit the shockwave, puts 3 members right on top of each other, which means Xin Zhao and Senna and Rakan have so much access to not only CC but damage. And Hums showing off how far ahead they are because they were able to stay alive for quite some time, get enough damage down to grab a kill for themselves, but not enough in the length of the fight, as eventually you did see Pookie Bear coming out on top and Keeley getting a lot of damage onto Senna as great buffer there by
Yeah. It's a little bit scary though, because if you knock a Rel out of their horse swarm, it's like you're a little bit vulnerable if you're looking at Jason. So Jason being able to stay alive for a little bit longer, of course, because this dragon is the primary focus. Splitting the dragons 1-1, not too bad of a shake, but it feels like a little bit of consolation for the side of DIT Esports because they really haven't had the extra value. And honestly, if I'm looking at Pookie Bears, they're like, that's great. That's now instead of only 2 ocean dragons, it's gonna be 3 if we gather them.
Yep, and it is the benefit of playing pretty decent macro. You lose that team fight in pretty decisive fashion, but because you're able to get back out onto the map quicker, you have very decisive movement in getting towards that dragon pit and securing that mark onto Rakan so they can't get in and get vision. You do get, as you mentioned, that consolation prize, but even past getting 3 ocean dragons, which is great, being able to force that soul point further back is going to be so useful to the team that's scaling more.
Well, for right now, I like the fact that we are seeing Jason actually step up for the battle a little bit more. And here's that mix. Royal recognizing that there is going to be dive, so instead tries to pinch the weaker side, but instead you get shoved, and Rock TP coming in though as Sean comes in with the shockwave and saves Royal. The Royal guards are here. For River says, yo, don't grab my king. We're about to dive on in. Catapult can't get away, and this top side is an absolute disaster for DIT Esports. They have lost not 1, not 2, but 3 times, and that is a 4-0 Royal on the Gwen.
I mean, I think one of the first things I said during this broadcast is that Gwen champ is pretty disgusting.
No, I didn't hear you say that. Are you sure you said that? Are you sure you didn't let us know that this was going to be dangerous?
I mean, you're seeing every time they come to this lane, they're thinking maybe we can stem the bleeding, maybe trophies. You're just donating more kills into the pocket. Buying that Nash's Tooth doesn't even have upgraded boots yet. This champion is going to run this game, and I think I want to see in this game 1 how the rest of Pookie Bear try and finish out this game. Obviously, it's early on. I'm not saying that they've won the game, but when you have a fed side laner like this, I want to see you take advantage of it. How do you use this to get to a more likely, less risky win con? And for that, it means Royal pushing in this lane and continue to looking for kills.
You do it in the face of Armeo, in the face. You don't give a crap. Royal showing them who's boss, claiming sole possession of the top lane kingdom.
Just taking the entire turret with Mundo standing there trying to just politely ask you to stop. You dive for the kill, and then you're like, oh, what's up, Volibear? You want to come over here too? Grab that kill. I mean, at this point, kind of taking over for the jungle. They've got their own wave that they can farm, and then they've got 2 nice champions, jungle camps, that they can grab on their way up. And For River just kind of standing here, wants to allow the Senna and the Rakan to get as much damage up. If I had to guess what they're probably looking to do...
2 towers.
Yeah. Oh, he did take the Eater. He
just flew through the second tower, dude.
I was going to say, I think they're looking to switch lanes and try and push this out to get the Gwen to come down and take these towers down. And that means I think it's even more likely.
Made out of freaking paper mache. What?
Just back for a needless, 2 needlessly large rods just bought.
Dude, Royal is having a ball up there, and it's very impressive. But also with the fact that you've been able to transfer some of that gold into For River and Sean. Remember, For River and Sean were able to kind of pick up the scraps at the end, which now means this top lane. Which normally, if we're talking about islands, it's the island is the island. The gold doesn't transfer out until we get the top laners joining in. But because For River and Sean both helped collect, as well as that bot lane tower dive gone wrong for DIT Esports, Pookie Bears are just bathing in the glory of the fact that this massive gold lead, this 5K gold lead at only 18 minutes, is going to hurt.
Yeah, I love the usage of that term. It is so often called an island. In this case, it's more of a resort. You know, everyone wants to come. They have a good every time that the rest of Pookie Bears come up, they have a great time. As Sean did get flanked here.
Yeah, but Sean gets over the wall. Sean's fine. That is going to be a shockwave right back as Sean is going to hang on for their dear life. They get shielding. Royal's here. Royal says, hey, Catapult, I'm about to send you back to the Stone Age. Slices through one. Redemption's the next one. Jason goes down. Sean gets a kill. And yet again, it is a story of DIT Esports attempting a fight and Pookie Bears saying no.
They just don't have the damage. They had great positioning, catch Sean way out of position, and are able to isolate them for a moment, but not nearly enough damage to get through that Seraph's Embrace, get through Oriana's Command Protect, and when all of your damage is focused on Talia and Volibear, with Corki not really getting into position in time, you're just not going to have enough, as Dragon has spawned, and they're just ripping Perry apart. Support and jungle are just tearing him down, and Xin Zhao doesn't do a ton of damage, but it certainly does enough to just push back this Black Cleaver only Volibear, as they are going to collect their second dragon.
You know, you called top lane a resort. Would you call demolishing DIT Esports a recreational activity then?
Yeah, it's what they bought the whole the unlimited package. Just whatever they want up there, they could have.
It really is. Like, who's gonna stop them? Let's look at this objectively. How do you stop Royal? Royal is 7-0-2. Quite honestly, I'm pretty sure only about 600 gold off of their Rabadons. That is a 3-item spike. No, you already completed it. It's 1,300 to complete. You got 200 left over. You're good. Royal can quite literally do whatever they wish. This top tower falling means nothing.
Yeah, I think right now they are actually doing the correct thing, and it's, we can't fight Gwen right now. There is a 0% chance even all 5 of us can take the Gwen. So let's just avoid them at all costs and do whatever we can on the opposite side of the map. So they commit to ignoring, send 3 people up topside, grab the turret with those objective bounties. This is the struggle with Gwen in the game right now. We talked about it getting some minor nerfs, so it's not as strong of a B1 blind pick beats everything handedly, but the only circumstance where this champion is still that disgustingly broken is into tanks, because the laning phase is just so free. You don't see any MR really being built by the Mundo in that lane matchup, but it doesn't matter. She does true damage.
Yeah, and right now that true damage is about to pop off here in the mid lane. Tower does fall, but they might pay the price. DIT Esports realizing they might have overstepped. Royal is now legendary, etching their name in the halls of glory, even saving Che. Hamza having to run away. In goes the bear, but quite honestly, it's all for show. Hang them on the mantle because they have been deleted, adding 1 to the trophy case. That bear is gone. Hunting season is over, and this is just Pookie Bears having a ball. They quite literally are just taking what they wish.
Yeah, and it really, you know, I'm sure that they could have only hoped that this is how the game would go, but it plays into the style that they drafted for. They have an 80 carry who, for most of the game, is going to be more of a facilitator. This Gwen is a just massive DPS threat. Rakan can make all these plays, and then Sean is here again to facilitate, to have those really game-changing, fight-breaking shockwaves. So when you're this far ahead, it's effortless. You have everything you need just in the kits alone and the items that you've been able to buy with all this extra gold. But this could be a good opportunity to find Sean.
Yeah, I really like that attempt. Sean is about to get blown up, and they do. Rice shut down, going over to Catapult, and can they follow up with extra damage? This is going to be Hamza off on the sidelines watching that Q go off, but unfortunately the HP bars are just a little bit too big because Royal, yet again, says Royal never gives up. Well done with the slice through. It's a 3 for 4, so at least you do get some of those bounty collections. But it still means that this bot side is now in perfect position for Royal to shove down yet another 2 towers.
I think Royal might have lost maybe 200-300 health during the course of that fight, and it
didn't care at all.
I just wasn't even paying attention. I don't even think they know that they had teammates in that fight. I mean, that's another 700 gold for that inner turret. Going to be able to back and buy. It looks like maybe a Banshee's. Oh, it's probably Merc Treads coming through. It really doesn't matter what the Gwen buys at this point. They have all the items they need, and I do like the strategy that implemented for that fight is you find someone
Yes.
out of position, you kill them immediately, and anything you get after that is a bonus. They were able to
Oh
get
my
2
god.
additional kills, which is great. But now, fully built Shadow Flame, as if the fact that they didn't have any MR was bad before, now going to have that execute true damage on low, or just a true damage once they get low, has that magic pen, and I mean, that last fight, I will say, to be completely fair, gave me a little bit more hopefulness for Dib because Perry wasn't even there, and they were able to pick up a couple kills. But, you know, this is an old school Corki that scales really, really well into the late game. This is a Corki that's kind of at their strongest right now and is going to start falling off soon, whereas Gwen and we haven't even really seen Senna come online yet. So that is something they have to contend with.
I mean, we seen Gwen online though. Let's be honest, a 4-item spike right now for Royal. You've hit a decent limit. I mean, at the end of the day, I don't know what else you would want to buy. Maybe just another bit of raw IP, maybe a little bit of shred if you wish. But you're slicing straight through. I mean, Sanchovi's, what are you doing? You can't even step up to farm. At this point, you're a glorified minion, and I hate saying that because it's not even, you know, Sanchovi's early game was a little bit rough, but at this point, Royal goes where Royal pleases.
Yeah, they really have free reign of this game. And you see here, even with Jason and Perry feeling like maybe we can do something about this, they're not even approaching where they know that Gwen is. It's just not, it's not beneficial for them to just give their lives over. Baron spawning in 30 seconds. Ocean Dragon is up and available. Looks like they are going to take that, put themselves on Soul Point. But I mentioned this earlier about talking how they want to end this game, and I do like the way they're approaching this end game. They could easily just take the risk of grouping as 5 on a wave and saying that you can't beat us because Gwen is so strong. But if they get a pick like they did on Sean, if someone mispositions, or just frankly, when you're this far ahead, if someone just starts autopiloting, doesn't really think where they're walking and gets picked off, that's how you end up losing these games when you're in these really advantageous positions. So I like to see them take things slow and just wait out what very easily can be a win for them.
I just want to point out, I can't even do that. Right now, we're going to get another bloody fight right in front of the Baron. In they go. Che says, let the quickness take over you. Shockwave lands on 1 on the backside, and the fight is more of a slaughter. It's an easy denial and more as Redemption goes down. That's going to be River holding on for dear life, sacrifices their life for the team. Cat Evolve sends the stones the wrong way, and it's a 4-0 only because Sanchovi's was nowhere near the battle.
Sanchovi's farming bot. They are completely, they've left the island. They are now going on their own vacation.
They went to a different island.
Yeah, they took a ferry over bot, and now going to be giving up this Baron, as if they had a hard enough time pushing earlier. Now they're going to have those Baron empowered minions, and I feel like that fight was the first time we saw Senna really doing a lot of work, flashing forward, taking down, and going to be able to back and get a real crit item too. So starting to get pretty out of hand.
What I was gonna try and point out earlier is, oh, it didn't happen. I was gonna say Royal was gonna complete their entire item build before there was a third item on the side of Dip, but Hamza has actually been farming fairly well. 247 ain't bad, especially considering the current scope, and they've had a majority share of the kills as well, so they were able to complete 3 Triforce as well as Lord Doms, and then the Empowered Man Immune. Like, that is, it's not a terrible item purchase. It's just, it feels so weak whenever you look across the board. You see Royal actually detouring for the boots upgrades. You're like, gosh, dang it.
Yeah, has a lot of money to spend. Can't fully finish that Zanya's. Also has the Seeker's Arm Guard, so might as well not upgrade it until you use that 17,000 gold in the pocket, and just able to sit on so much, as we could be seeing the last fight right now.
It's looking like a little bit of a pain. Nice little shove, but the Shockwave lands on 1, and that's all you need. A little bit further they go. Che saying they want to compete, but they're taking a little bit low as they're only level 13. TP coming in here, though, as Royal jumps right into the fray. Through the tower, we want your base. Down they go. Cut, snip away. The threads of victory are yours. That's going to be key to keeping the likes of Armeo away. And it's GG at just 27.5 minutes over to Pookie Bear.
I mean, that was a really impressive way to end that game, as if the entire game itself wasn't impressive enough. The fact that they were just waiting in that little side bush, and they were like, as soon as we see one person, we're gonna kill him. Then we'll have Gwen TP and end the game. And I mean, if we think back early game, the way bot lane positioned put them in a couple of dangerous situations, but other than that, really clean game beginning to end for Pookie Bear.
Yeah, it was the realization that, hey, Hamza is going to get strong, right? First blood went their way. Huge shout out there. The realization that, hey, bot lane might not be exactly in our favor. It's not even anymore. But hey, Royal's doing work up top side. The immediate leverage of, okay, don't play overextended. Don't try and get spicy. Play smart, play safe, and we'll take victory. That is the right call. That's what you want to see from a team that is looking to make their way into the lower bracket semifinals and make their mark there as well. Jack, I'm excited. One, because if Royal keeps playing like this, they are going to be a massive threat and actually are with a big target on the back. If we're looking at Esports, what do they need to do in game two besides say, hey, great job, now we don't have to deal with Gwen again?
They have to draft something much more proactive. I feel like the
Hmm.
Volibear doesn't have a lot of agency that other champs in the jungle do. I know that they banned away stuff like Pantheon, stuff like Vi, but champs that have guaranteed engage, guaranteed go buttons. Volibear is really dependent on the pieces around him. And then when you pair it with Dr. Mundo, who doesn't have any lockdown CC, the Talia, which is a lot more dependent on what the enemy team does than what you do. Corki is, not a ton of damage, low range. Rel obviously ties it together, but we're talking about a 2 damage comp that has no real hard CC unless the support is there. They need to pick something that works better as a 5v5. So if they do get behind, they at least have a clear way to win a 5v5 fight.
Well, there you go. Let's see if Esports can do it. Maybe they do it from the red side of the rift. Either way, we are going to a game number 2, and we'll see how things throw down. Pookie Bear into Esports coming back at you after this break. One-sided beatdown was game number one, and for Esports, you are hoping for a little bit of a stronger match this time around. No Gwen on the table, and also a little bit of a new jungler. I do have to correct myself from a little bit earlier. I unfortunately thought that Perry was our male. Our male was not playing this time. Perry was a sub coming in, and now we have another sub coming in for Esports. Jack, we got Vakin, I believe, who will be joining in on the roster. We have no real information on this player, so it's going to be a little bit of a toss-up, a little bit of a gamble for them.
Yeah, one of the two team leads, and I think one of the benefits to look a little bit analytically at this is a lot of the junglers that are very meta right now are pretty simple to execute in terms of those big fights. Now, when it comes to farming at a uncapped level, it's going to be a little bit different, especially when you're going up against someone who looked as capable as For River. But we are going to, hopefully see them play into that and not just kind of sleepwalk through draft. Maybe we go for one of these more tanky picks, a Sejuani, a Maokai, something that can just really just kind of flow with the rest of the game, as we are never going to see that Aurora get given to Sean.
No, I highly doubt it in more ways than one. I also don't expect to see a Draven or a Varus come out here. Again, Hamza was still showing a decent proficiency there in the bottom lane. Very, very strong in terms of trying to ride that Corki. It just never really got off the ground at that respect. I mean, 5 kills in was doing some damage, namely though in the top side. That's the other side we need to take eyes on, because Royal had an amazing matchup, and that was a counter pick. And whenever I look at a counter pick, I always sit there and go, I want counter picks to be strong. I mean, whenever you see an R5 come out, you want punch in there. I don't just want to see glue to a composition. I want to see punch. That Gwen had oodles of it. And now I'm taking a look here. Pookie Bears have the chance to do the exact same thing.
Yeah, that is the benefit of getting that red onside selection, as we're seeing the Pantheon get taken away once again. They don't want to take it first, so they're going to make sure they don't give it up. I think leaving that top pick for counter is absolutely their best move, especially if they're willing to have their jungle pool be some of the more stock standard playmaking stuff that doesn't really bring a lot of damage with it into the late game, but can facilitate for other players in that early and mid. So we still have a lot up and available. If they don't ban Vi, again, they'll have that on that second rotation if it isn't first picked. And obviously, when we talk about counter picks, if you're well practiced, which I would assume Royal is quite well practiced, there's so much up and available. And if Sanchovi's is going to pick another passive laner, like another, if they want to play another tank like top laner, there are so many duelists and fighters available that they could just pull out and run a game with.
Yeah, and also it's a little bit of a shift up. The Nico has actually been left open by Esports. They say, hey, we'll leave it open. We don't think it's that much of an issue. It's the Jace that we need to deal with. Rolo cannot be given that champion, which elicits an Udyr ban. I haven't seen Udyr in a while, and the fact that it is being banned out here feels very unique in that situation. I appreciate it, though. Very targeted.
Yeah, it's either going to be something Vakin is known to play. Udyr top also, I think, is one of those lane dominant solo queue picks that someone like Sancho, I would assume, is going to be able to play that very proficiently, as they didn't ban the Nico because they want it. They grabbed that up, and like I mentioned, I want to get the exact on patch 5.11, which is what we are playing on. Poppy has been played in 38 pro games with a 51% prio score, and has come down to earth a little bit, 50% win rate, but if we look at the last patch, Nico didn't receive any nerfs on the patch, but last patch was sitting at a 62% win rate at the support position. So extremely strong and very good specifically into Vi, because if Poppy doesn't have to go hunting for that pop blossom, if all those champs come to her, she's loving that.
Yep, and another little treat for the eyes is the fact that both teams actually banned these champions out previously. In game number 1, we saw the Nico ban coming in the first round. Pookie Bears did the exact same. They banned the Vi. But the fact that both these have been left open shows that both teams are actively chasing a little bit of that stronger piece of the puzzle. They say, hey, we're trying to lock things down, and that's what we're going to do. I like this, though. The misfortune to come out, picking up that ADC a little bit early once again. Last time, it was the Senna in this position. So it goes to show that they are still looking at, I wouldn't say an outright dominating lane, although Misfortune can do so. It's still that almost utility on the backside. Ooh, okay, a Nocturne to come out here. I like it.
Pairs very well with the Nico. It's hard to dodge a pop blossom when you really don't know what direction it's coming from. Put that on top of the clones coming through. You really have, there's so much deception that are going to be able to play around. And going back to that AD carry strategy, I think going for Misfortune, obviously quite strong early, but the power falls off pretty steeply towards the mid and late game. And if you utilize the Misfortune more for its utility, it can stay relevant, having those AoE slows and that big AoE bullet time to put down damage. But getting so much more proactivity,
Ooh.
and I should have stopped myself short because I was like, oh, Kaisa, you got the killer instinct, can dive in. They've got so much dive and follow up, but now you've got Akali. Gonna have to be careful around Nico, whether it's mid lane or support. Akali's gonna have to be careful going in, because if that Pop Blossom comes through,
Yep.
she's gotta get out of there as soon as possible, or she is just sitting duck. But if they can really weave in and out, I think Akali can do damage. And I'm actually surprised to see that Galio ban obviously plays really well into Akali, but one of the really annoying things about Nocturne is Galio simply just can't play into it, because if those lights get turned off, you just have no ability to utilize your ultimate.
Well, the thing is actually in the opposite direction. So Pookie Bears don't want to give the Wombo combo over with the Galio. So they're the ones saying, hey, look, we know how powerful this combination can be. It's the stop the dive situation. So I like that call down. In essence, though, Esports are saying, no, we don't want any safety value. The Aatrox is a great deterrent. When you pop that world energy, you just say, hey, no abilities. And then the Katarina at the end, this again is sending a message to Cat Evolved saying, if you can fear us, if you can dive into us, we don't want to follow up residual damage. I appreciate the fact that you are actively looking at that mid lane for that value.
Yeah, I also like that they've shifted away from some of the support bans. You know, Nico most likely support, but can still easily go mid lane. Cat, I know, has played it in the past. I would really like to see an Alistar here. They've got so much dive, so much engage, and Alistar gives you not only the options to disengage, but also gives you that
Whoa.
cleanse, as Kennen will come through. This is a champion that receives some indirect buffs through the mage item system adjustment, because that proto belt got a lot cheaper, and it's a really strong item for this champion to rush. So it's also a really great blind into any sort of lane. So I like that Kennen pickup.
It's not just that, it's also a great deterrent, right? You're just talking about the Nico being a deterrent for the Vi. Well, all of a sudden, the Kennen is a deterrent on the other side. Hey, you don't want to dive into a Kennen. I don't want to dive into a Slicing Maelstrom. I'm going to be screwed. So both teams now have deterrents, and it's going to almost be a bluff check. It's going to be that bluff factor or that confidence factor of the team. Hey, who's willing to dive? Who's willing to step up, possibly get into this dangerous mix and be in trouble? And it's just layered. Esports are building team fight upon team fight upon team fight. It's getting a little bit ridiculous with the Ornn and the Swain, and I can only imagine what we're going to get from Pookie Bear, what is going in that support role. It's almost, I feel like you could go for a Nautilus. I feel like you could go for something else, and they're going Misfortune support. That is a spice in a half here. Either that or that's Gen support. I don't know.
I mean, I didn't know we had Carrier in this lobby. I was seeing either Jin or Misfortune. Now, I will say, first in-person League of Legends event I ever attended was the 2016 World Semifinals in Madison Square Garden, where Misfortune was selected by, I believe that was Gorilla in the support position. So, you know, I'll have to really dig back in my memory to remember how this pick is played, as it is going to be Misfortune support. And I don't know of any specific interactions with Nico support, but I mentioned, you know, the way that Misfortune stays relevant throughout the game is utility. Using these AoE slows that are available in the kit, the constant movement speed, the double up allows you to have a lot of base damage without needing to itemize for it. And I love the way this draft shook out, where it's like, okay, you've got dive, we'll dive more. We got Akali. And then they're like, oh, you want Kennen to deter? We got Swain. You want to run into a Swain? So really felt like they were just checking each other at every point. And what it's left us with as casters is two really entertaining team comps.
Yeah, and I want to dive a little bit further into that as we dive onto the Rift itself. The main thing is for River, they're gonna have a little bit tougher time in terms of the dive potential, because you take a look at who's gonna follow up behind it. It's most likely Sean, unless Royal has the flash available. I don't foresee them being able to get into the dive. There for the deterrent, there for the double ADC at this point. On the flip, you got an Ornn, you got a Nocturne, you got a Swain, you got a Kaisa, you got a Nico. All of these have great access into the back line. So I'm actually, you know, as much as we talk about the Swain, Cat Evolved being on that deterrent factor, I feel the Swain is going to be more just like, hey, it's going to be a deterrent, but I also need to land the claws. If I can land the claws, I can keep people in the fight, because I see a good scatter comp coming out from the side of Pookie Bears.
Yeah, these team fights are going to be what I like to call flinch fights. They both have
Yeah.
so much engage and disengage. It's really going to be like who pushes your buttons first. Whoever pushes their buttons first ends up losing because they're the ones who put themselves in bad situations, get re-engaged on, and if Akali finds an angle but doesn't get the immediate execute, like you mentioned, they're getting pulled in by Swain. They're going to get locked down by Nico. So when you have a champion like Vi that is only engage. You only go in. If Four River goes in abruptly or without the coordination of the rest of the team, they're just donating kills over and giving that free start. So I think when we do look at these comps, it's important to distinguish what is CC and what is actually damage, because Swain, Nocturne, Ornn aren't really giving you a lot of damage. So I'm interested to see how Hums plays on this Kaisa as their main damage source for the team.
I was also kind of curious. I don't think the shapeshift form was broken by Che's rain there, the E. That's actually really surprising. I wonder if that's why you were trying to do it, is just to cut out that cloning factor. It's not working as neatly as you would like. So for right now, the damage trades are back in for junglers once again, starting on opposite sides, both starting on the red bus and being able to work their way down. See if it makes any sort of difference. But at the moment, level 2 is being hit across the lanes, and so far a little bit quiet. Remember, at about, I want to say 7 or 8 minutes is when we saw first blood as well. There's a little bit of silliness in the top lane.
Yeah, I'm trying to think of like major champ interactions as to why Misfortune is going to be good here. Obviously, getting that double tap Q through the clone right onto whichever Nico is the real one. Also, that bouncing grenade for Jhin, giving you guaranteed hits on both targets. But one of the major determining factors as to whether or not an AD carry is functional in the support role for this early game is base damages. And that's why you've seen, obviously it's not as meta anymore, but when Jhin was able to be support, it's because they have base damage increases with the 4th shot. When it was Callista, it's because you have the Ren. You see certain champions that have these damage amps built into their kit are capable of going down here. And even though it's 4 ranged champions in the bot lane, you see how much of an advantage the double AD carries have.
Yeah, I also didn't expect the rain as well as the deadly flourish to be used so quickly. You can definitely tell that that both Kita as well as Che have practiced this combination a few times, making sure to get that extra damage and burning the pots early, right? Hamza is already out of pots. So is Jason, which means that they're not gonna have that much freedom. Not only that, heavy wardage from the mid lane into that bot side, so everyone in that position knows that, hey, it's a lot of freedom. Right now in the mid lane, though, Vakin joining in for a bit of a gank. A quick out, though, but it's a meeting of the minds as in comes the vibe for River, just running a little bit in interference. Sean is going to stay alive with the flash because another claw came out and Cat Volve doing quite well. Nice change from game number 1.
Yeah, I like to see more proactivity in that mid game, or in that mid lane. Last game, Sean was just pushing Cat under turret, getting near solo kills by continuing to pressure once that flash was down. And once you have these really aggro pushing lanes, I also like to see them invest heavily into the wards, make sure that no one can get punished for the aggressive pushing. And they really are being, aggressive is almost not appropriate, because we were talking about burning pots. Kita and Che were burning their own pots so that they could tank abilities to deny CS from Hums. And in the end, it hasn't really shaken out to be a massive difference, but Hums missed multiple cannons during that because Kita would just walk up and tank the ability to make sure that they were restricting every possible resource they could.
For right now, we'll see if there's any extra shift here. Sean walking forward, getting a little bit extra damage, misses the E flip. That had been in range. I wonder if that would have been a follow, and if Cat Volve would have lost their flash. Current moment, though, just in the CS department, because Royal is of course up with that goal. We're seeing a safe extra 300 gold in the bank, decently enabled. And of course, for Sean and Cat Volve, they're still waiting for their first back. I love this. Both of them sitting on their opening Dorans and just like, I want to go ahead and go help out. Of course, in that bottom side, we're seeing Hamza eat a little bit extra damage as everyone's getting their licks in.
Yeah, Royal definitely playing with a lot of confidence after that last game, going for the first strike. Kennen has that range versus melee matchup, knows that they can fully abuse as you see the Ornhorn coming in. Nocturne's available, but no paranoia. So just kind of, we're just throwing stuff at him. Like, hey, we remember what happened last time, and we're not okay with that.
I like the fact that we have to call that out, not remembering, or maybe we are, a little bit of PTSD, the fact that it was a whole gank in the top side that caused Royal to get 2 in the early start. However, inside of that mid lane, we're seeing Sean get fought out a little bit, using that perfect execution to stay alive instead, and make sure they don't get taken out.
That was well done. Again, we talked about this a little bit last game about not panicking. When you have these plays and you have a lot of, you're getting ganked by the support, if you panic and just kind of freeze up, you're going to just get killed. But goes back in with a public execution, knowing that if they dodge that never move, there's no more follow-up CC that could come through. So able to get out even without flash is very impressive, as we do see something that was missing last game when the top got ahead was this lane swap to come through. So now if you have an Ornn that just wants to sit through the laning phase, absorb as much gold and XP as possible, you might as well put them in the 2v1 lane and try to force Royal back a little bit, as you see how respectful Royal's now being on the top side, with Nico playing the decoy game, trying to force him away.
I mean, that is also a little bit of a lane swap situation. You mentioned the fact that lane swaps have been largely cut out, at least for the early start, but it doesn't stop them from doing it, especially with the grubs coming up here and with it being a much more tame early game. The fact that, if you're looking at Esports, you lost early dragon, you can't give over the grubs as well. It's, normally a little bit of a give and take, but at the current moment, a little bit of an overload. On the flip side, take a look at this one. Royal staying in the top side position for River, holding steady in the River. But in comes Che, as well as Kita, moving in to try and push this top lane out, force Jason and Hamza to kind of stay away.
Yeah, we see the teleport coming through. They want to get these winning lanes back where they are, and really great timing here for Pookie Bear, because with those grubs just having spawned, you now have your strong side on the objective side going to be able to have full numbers, as we won't have Kennen there, unfortunately, with that teleport coming through. But you do grab one grub, and with these rotations on the timer they are, I like the decision to just grab the one grub and then say, you know what, we're not really willing to flip the game right now. We'll take the one grub, we'll get out of here, and make sure you don't get those void mites later on, but we're happy with just the one and our scaling picks.
I feel like this is a little bit of shock value as well. We had such a hectic and frenetic one-sided game number 1, and now we're almost just at this even pace. It's been so quiet, like neither team has been willing to kind of step over that range, even with the level 7 on Vakin. Vakin hasn't been willing to draw that ult, hasn't been willing to use that paranoia to dive on in. We're still waiting for that first moment. Right now, Hamza, we're seeing the combinations really break out here, but it's a call down of that curtain call. It's going to be a chance, though, as this is going to be Hamza red and opened up on, but able to flash away and stay underneath with that killer instinct. So both Hamza as well as Jason are able to stay alive, but that's a lot of damage, being they are forced away from this tower.
Yeah, it was funny, we were just talking about how it felt like everyone was taking a chill pill for this game based on the last one, but that play read very desperate to me. They weren't waiting to use their abilities. The make it rain mixed with the bullet time was not well lined up, so it was so easy for Hamza to just walk out of it. And then once that curtain call got cast, didn't wait for Vi's damage to come through to have that fourth shot deal as much damage as possible. So you can sense maybe a little bit of desperation in this game state. They want to be a bit more active and not finding the opportunities to do so. But with a minute and 50 seconds just about on Dragon, all of their cooldowns will be up and available for that next big fight.
So we sit and wait. The scoreboards are so lonely, but as you called, everyone kind of getting right in the space, kind of getting ready for the stat checks that'll be coming out shortly. You can see that gold resting in either direction. Cat involved, no mana, but a decent amount of HP sitting on that Eons, just chilling, waiting with the extra HP and all. Vakin having a clone of themselves. That's just spinning. I love that, by the way. The Nico clone is so good for that, just kind of messing around. At the moment, though, on the bot side, Hamza realizing that they don't want to be here. Quick run back to their own tower. So a lot of these ganks being thwarted at the current moment.
You know, usually when I see Nocturnes, I see them rush a Tiamat item, but I love the fact, and I might be speaking too soon, we might see our first Paranoia come out here, but the Experimental Hexplate is the first item. You get that ultimate ability haste, and yet has not used the ultimate yet. Has not wanted to go for that Paranoia, doesn't want to pull the trigger. And when we have these long early game global ultimates, it's all about how you utilize that first one. You have to make it worth it because you're not going to have access to it for about 2 minutes. So I like that they are holding it until the next dragon, especially seeing as Sanchovi's has teleport, will be able to join, whereas Royal would have to make the long walk from top lane to the dragon pit if they wanted to join.
That's true. Have to walk all the way there, and it's a frustrating walk as well. With the dragon coming up in just about 10 seconds, it is going to be an Infernal as well. And we're just now seeing River join on in. Timing is a little bit off too, so there's going to be a chance. However, Sean being forced to the Shroud early, I feel gives a massive advantage over to the side of Esports. You can see them still collecting around the dragon, having all three on the spot. Cat Evolve can join in as well if they wish, but are you going to have that fight? It is going to be the call down as Vakin's going to route along the backside. That's going to be a force out. Very nice catch, and the dragon should already be going down here. So they lose the dragon. Are they going to call for more? They call it a TP. This seems a little bit exciting. Dragon is gone. TPs from both top laners. And everyone just kind of walks away.
Yeah, don't really understand the TP from Royal. I understand it a little bit from Sanchovi's. You want to make sure if they do engage, you at least have a deterrent with the TP itself, and then if they do engage, you obviously will have the numbers advantage there. But I feel like Royal could have just taken a turret plate top lane, had a lot of free CS. Really good positioning and excellent play by Jason on the Nico. As soon as that curtain call gets cast, just knows their only real job is to cancel that ultimate, run the Jhin out of the fight. So much of their gold is in this Jin's pocket, so making sure that they fully utilize the kit of Nico support. It's what makes this champion so difficult to play against, is not only having the clones constantly activated and running around, but maybe speaking too soon, getting caught out there, has the ability to just put down so much CC and has so much range to hit you with.
Yeah, and this is why I think I like that call. We were talking about, you know, what made them choose the Misfortune Jhin, and you can see the combination. It just works very, very well. Very simple to execute as well, so we can get out of this world. However, that is going to be a call down from the bushes. Easy catch because you're on top of a ward. First blood at 13.5 minutes, going the way of Vakin.
That was really well played. They finally make the call, and they get rewarded for playing patiently. They got pushed in all early game in this lane. They finally gain some standing, and they are able to capitalize off of that deep ward put in. And otherwise, you know, on the opposite side, it was just a very simple, you know, Pookie Bear bot lane pushed out. Let's go back, reset, sell, spend some of our gold, but sitting on that ward gave them the perfect opportunity to engage, follow up. Didn't even have to use the Pop Blossom.
And now they're going to look for a fight here, but that's a quick fight out, and unfortunately you don't get away from it. So it's a catch onto Sean. Jason getting yet another piece of the pie, got a kill for themselves, and for River being run away. All of a sudden, things looking better and better. Skills starting to tip into Esports' way.
This is why I mentioned the Nico pick being so good against Akali. Even with the Shuriken flip being used, was in the Shroud, but if that Pop Blossom lands, you are just stuck, and you are in the worst position an Akali can possibly be in. I want to point out, Kai'Sa is my favorite champ in the game, so I'm always looking at the decisions Kai'Sas are making and going to opt for the crit build because of all the heavy AP on the team, as they are just going to be able to run away from the teleported in Sean. You crit build, you do lose out on a noticeable amount of attack speed, but your damage will be fine.
You know whose damage isn't going to be fine? It's going to be out of this world as Sean just needs one more auto. Actually finds it with the last 5-point strike. That was such an easy rundown on the Nico's life.
Yeah, I feel like they got a little overconfident there, thinking that Misfortune maybe couldn't put down enough damage to support that fight. Akali hasn't been super on the map, dealing a lot of damage, so might not have realized how much was capable at that moment. But with the Storm Surge in the pocket, capable of doing a ton of damage, especially to two squishy champs. So grabbing that kill is going to prove very important, especially with the Dark Seal being in the pocket, starting to stack up as Jhin going for this kind of hybrid build, going Yumu's first for that movement speed. It is going to push back the damage that will come from this champion, but you have so much AoE, and seeing that Blackfire Torch for Misfortune, like I said, you want to fully leverage into the utility. So if you land a nice Make It Rain or a nice bullet time, you're getting 20% AP immediately for the duration of a fight. So I actually really like that itemization for Misfortune.
It's a nice little pickup, but right now we're seeing that expanse coming out from Esports. They are putting a lot of members into this mid lane, preferably because Dragon is going to be up in about 40 seconds. So they need to start breaking it in, start breaking down some of those towers I've been seeing up for quite some time. They were able to get through bot side, but mid might be the next. Only questions abound, though, is are the Dragons going to be taken by one side or the other? Right now, it's two global objectives for one team. It's going to be catch, though. Vakin with the spell shield up for River, not allowed to play. I mean, that feat could go the way of the Esports, which would be big. Sean now getting some extra damage on Cat Evolved. Cat Evolved is going to be playing, but that's going to be that Ascension. And Cat Evolved, are you going to have enough damage and sustain? Looks like you're having a decent amount right now. That's a lot of extra in the back pocket. Meanwhile, Herald was actually dropped into the mix. It is going to be a shutdown, though, on Cat Evolved. Herald was actually deleted as well, as now we get the call out. Nice clone to body block a little bit coming through. But the curtain call used just to push everyone else off. So as we were talking about, mid lane push, but kill went the way of the Pookie Bears, as well as what could be a follow-up Dragon.
Yeah, the numbers advantage makes it pretty impossible for them to contest, although Vakin is in position to try and maybe make a play over the wall. I doubt they're going to make that risk. Really wouldn't be worth it, so doesn't go for that. Sanchovi's...
Oh, no. He got caught window shopping. And Sean amazingly says, I don't want to chase, which makes sense because Zakin's not seen right now. But man, Sanchovi's getting away because you already have your item completed. That feels good.
Dang, really didn't expect them to not get punished for that, but very lucky there for Sanchovi's. And this is a very strong point in the game for the Esports. If you look at the items, Fimbulwinter completed for Ornn, so extremely tanky unless someone has multiple items. And we saw in that last fight, Swain 7 stacks on the Roa and had another Giant's Belt in the inventory going towards this now completed Rylai's. So you have so much sustain on the Swain, and while the damage isn't really there yet, the Kai'Sa almost onto that Infinity Edge, has that Q evolved, so going to be able to put down massive damage with the Acathian Rain. And now you see these swirling Nikos coming towards you constantly. Even for pro players and players in these tier 3, tier 2 tournaments, it is pretty distracting and gets kind of hard to manage and deal with. I've heard a lot of teams' comms that you'd be surprised how disruptive these Nico clones can be.
Right now, what's distracting is the fact that that is going to be an ult all in. Nice claw to land! That's what you need as Cat Evolved forces Akali to fight. That's a duel you don't want to take. Cat Evolved with the help of Vakin. Take one kill. A little bit of catch though on the back end, as that's going to be a dive straight into Hamza. Hamza, though, with the killer instinct, gets back to safety. Shay got tagged on the back end, but that's a flash forward for River. Finds the punch now back in a bad spot. You're going to try and flash over the wall, and you are going to reach, but there's a blast cone in hand, and all of a sudden, Vakin not enjoying where they're at, gets the heal extra, but you are going down. All of a sudden, things look like a little bit of a disaster. Royal not taking a 1v1 fight on the bot side. But overall, what a call. Royal now with the slicing Maelstrom, going to keep Sanchovi's at bay. With the eye on the backside, though, Cat Evolved is looking to try and help out. Shay just being an absolute annoyance. But a messy fight all around that river and jungle. Cat Evolved, though, it's not over. These 1v1s are continuing beyond. The Cat Evolved is very tanky, who has the Rylai's and has the Rod of Ages. Guess who's coming around? It's a little bit of a storm. One more 5-point flash forward. Kita ends it with a 4-shot, but it's still a kill back. And Jay almost goes down. It was almost a 1-for-2. Either way, it's a 1-for-1 at the end of the day. So if you're Cat Evolved, you're okay with that.
Yeah, they didn't de-aggro the turret, so that ramp maintained. And overall, a lot to recap there, but it was just a lot of disjointed decision-making by the Esports. They kept going in one by one to try and save one another. At some point, someone has to make the call of just like, leave me, don't come to save me. Redemption ended up almost going down as well. towards the end of that fight, but luckily that top outer turret is still up to protect them. And that is some much needed gold and time, as 2 kills going on to Kita allows this Jhin that's, going this lower early game damage build with the Yumu's first not going into that crit yet, now has the rapid fire cannon, going to start leveraging some of that crit chance, and Pop Blossom is popped, going to get him.
Yeah, but the slicing maelstrom was popped in time, but a double knockup means that it's still in this fray. Royal almost able to get away, but that's Hamza to follow up, and that's Hamza to take a second. All of a sudden, the backline is getting cut out. Kita gets caught, and the damage from DIT Esports is just too dang damaging. That will be the 4th. Over the wall you go to try and help out, but it's a clean 4 for 0, and there was nothing Pookie Bears could do.
I mean, we talked early, who's gonna flinch first? They hit the Pop Blossom, they hit the Paranoia, but they don't actually go for it. So once Royal uses that slicing Maelstrom, all they have to do is wait it out, and then there are no tools left available for them to disengage. I mentioned earlier, I know that this Misfortune Jhin lane worked really well in laning phase, but because you don't have any other forms of disengage, no support that has some sort of CC abilities, you don't have Alistar or Rel or something, as we do see the kill with the Make It Rain coming through. So there is your benefit right there, as they will pick up the Thornbound Atacon. Oh, but the behind, they're still looking for a fight here.
I mean, you're looking for consolation, though, at the end of the day, as you hit the clone. That was all the clone damage, so Che is just kind of chasing around, but the tower's still up. So overall, what do you get? You get a single kill. It's really not that great if I'm looking. All of a sudden, Che is in a really bad spot. You went a little bit too far. Now you're tethered up. It's just gone back in. Shoes through yet another. And all of a sudden, that consolation prize doesn't feel like one. It just feels like the price you pay for losing the fight. Pookie Bear is losing a lot right there.
Yeah, they're going to have to take advantage of this timing window very aggressively. They have 4 on the map, and Vakin just went back to base, but they opt to play it safe. They know that the Dragon score will be at worst even if they give this one over. So they opt to just collect their own jungle camps, not going to risk flipping the entire game to get the soul point. But we are at a very dangerous game state. If you look at Diz items, you have that IE Yuntal's combo for the Kaisa, so while this build does lack in attack speed, will have those 2 massive evolves, no Void Seeker evolve, but still going to be able to land those snipes, and the ornaments have come through. That's an additional 1,000 gold value on each completion, so their seemingly 3k gold lead, or now 4k gold lead, is in reality a 6k gold lead, so going to get pretty hard to deal with as Pop Blossom.
Oh, flash into Protobelt into death. DIT Esports show the difference here in the mid lane. It's an easy pinch and a half. Even Vakin with only 20% HP is going to fly through another HP bar. Sean can barely do anything, but the chase with the killer instinct, flash over the side, making sure the extra bump doesn't come through, and it's a wash and an ace for the side of DIT Esports. And they say game 1 was a fever dream, but this is reality. We have here on the Salt Mine Show a full BO3. We're going the pure distance. And in the Aegis Champions League, Jack, we're going to the absolute finale. Act number 3 headed your way to see who moves on to the lower semis and who decides to go home.
What an absolute flip from what we saw last game. I mean, it was an absolute stomp for Pookie Bear in game 1. And this game, I mean, what we asked for was more agency, more ability to make plays. And how do you do that? But you get Nocturne, you grab an 80 carry that can be aggressive in lane and out of lane of the Nico. Swain gives you so much security. And then the Kaisa, those killer instincts, we only saw a couple big fights, but Hums showed really well that he could make those work, make those plays, used one to almost escape, and then in that last fight, obviously, completely cleaning up and ending that game. Really, really impressed by the turnaround by DIT Esports.
And I'm looking on the other side, and you take a look at Pookie Bears, and they drafted a relatively low comp damage output. I mean, a Jhin doesn't exactly scale late game. You don't really have that much shred, but you can see the glimmers. You could see what they were wanting to do. And at the end of the day, they had a little bit of extra wiggle room. Now that we take a look and DIT Esports is able to pull off a very clean, if given the comfortable status of a calm early game, What do you decide to do here? Do you go back to the drawing board, take a page out of game one, and just try and go, scaling late game, or do you look for a little bit of that spicy early game?
I think Pookie Bear tried to play it safe. They went for a hard winning bottom lane that doesn't really scale. They blinded the Kennen so that there really wasn't a winning matchup available for Sanchovies. And I feel like that's just not how they won game one. They won game one by playing patient bot lane and winning through Royal. And when you try and flip it to winning through mid lane, the Akali is a very, very risky champ. If you don't get ahead early, this champion just kind of doesn't do anything. And playing into Sway Nico doesn't make that any easier. So I want to see them get back to what the formula they used in game one to win.
Right, well, both teams currently have 1 foot out the door, but only one team can remain. So we'll see which door shuts in their faces. We're going to go to just one more break. One last chance, one more game. The teams have one more option, one more opportunity to prove themselves and move on into the lower bracket semifinals or say goodbye to the ACL playoffs. I'm excited. Both teams have shown a very strong option. When we took a look at the Esports, they went ahead, played a very strong team fight composition, very heavy on the engagements. On the flip side, Royal knew how to show up in game number one, and the team coasted off of that. Right now, though, we've gotten multiple information pieces. We have a side swap for the first time this series.
Yep, we have Pookie Bears finally heading over to that blue side. They did take a red side win, so that is pretty good, even though here in the ACL, we'd have a bit more even side win rates. And I really think it goes without saying how important this last draft is, because
Yep.
this is our game 3 of a best of 3, but after this point, it's all best of 5s. So if we start to see pools getting pinched now, even if you win, you're going to be in for a rough game next week.
And not only that, it's going to be rough in more ways than one. Pookie Bears has a chance to be able to go back in a rematch against Galaxy Gaming, who we have gotten confirmation that they went ahead and 2-0'd NLE earlier today. So, if there is going to be a rematch, Pookie Bears do want that because moving into a BO5 against the likes of Galaxy Gaming might give them the edge. However, what the edge will not have, at least for the Esports, is that Draven. Understandable considering who's playing the other side.
Yeah, and they could easily pick that up R1, R2, get a full bot side or just Draven jungle. And looking at the 80 carries up and available, at this
Ooh.
point, the Draven isn't even like target only as a ban here, because when we look at what's up and available after that Varus ban, you've got Lucian, Kallista's up, you've also got stuff like Ashe available. Having the double 80 carry bot lane took away a lot, but Xayah is relatively lower range, so all of the really meta stuff would have a hard time into Draven. So I like them keeping that ban here. And I looked over while we were in the break. With these bans having a little bit more flexibility in this game 3, we do have a lot of really strong B1s up and available. Pantheon is still available, Rumble, Azir is still available. So there is a lot to choose from, but now there's one less with that Pantheon pinching the jungle pool even further.
Well, the weird thing as well is we actually saw a split of the ADCs. Before, we actually saw the likes of Esports banning away both, but it's Pookie Bears on the flip that are saying, no, we can't really deal with that one. Or no, Pookie Bears were the double ban, but it was Esports that banned away the Varus. So Pookie Bears actually get to go down yet another ADC. You were just talking about some of the reliables that are currently out there. Tristana, obviously, leaning into that very heavy front. So, you know, you got to take that one away. What that also means is Pookie Bears has a chance to also grab an ADC. If this is going to be an ADC war, at the end of the day, I wouldn't be surprised to see those kind of first picked up. But at the end of the day, did Esports do backtrack a little bit, round out with what they banned previously in the first? It is that Aurora to still stay out of the hands of Sean.
Yeah, I think this is a point you got to pick up that Azir, or you need some sort of insurance late game scaling. They're going to opt to go the safe route. They want the Ezreal. They don't want to have to worry about bot lane, and this is sort of getting back to their winning formula game 1. It doesn't give you as much scaling as something like Senna, but it gives you that ability to forget about your bottom lane. You know that they're going to be safe. You grab the Ezreal. You can go for an enchanter that'll help the team or some extra poke. They showed last game they don't mind playing those double range bot lanes. The Sivir coming through. So you have great late game, but not much else before that point. You really are going to have to pair that Sivir with a lot to make it work. I've seen, you know, even today in the EMEA Masters, we saw some Sivir drafts that were just like, what are they thinking? Putting it next to the Karma is good because that is not only a good pairing for Sivir and for a team, but a good takeaway as Karma Ezreal is a pretty oppressive lane to play against.
Yeah, the thing is also drafts away from what Esports have been doing originally, which was giving a lot of comfort over to Hamza. Hamza has been like the star a lot in terms of the draft. I wouldn't say in the game overall, but in the draft, we see a lot of pressure put down. You know, the core key into that Kaisa. These are all high variables. You know, you want to make these impacts. Sivir's not exactly a high impact champion, or at least not a spotlight champion. Can do great late game, but it's not the all around shell shock. So I am surprised to see that come out in the first pickup. However, the Nautilus makes sense, and then the Jace, which has been banned away multiple times against Royal, is now picked up. Now, granted, that can also go into that mid lane if you wish. However, more often than not, we've seen a ban because of Royal in that top side.
Yeah, Jace is kind of. I think it's way stronger if you can realistically flex it, but it is so strong in the top lane. And going to go into the Scion, not the worst matchup for the Jace, just a bit annoying because your kill threat is quite low. Shout out Hummus on production with the Nautilus pick. We were talking about spiels earlier. We were talking about how Nautilus isn't as tanky as you think. It just kind of goes in and dies if you don't play around it right. And I do like it when you have a Jace. You have so much lockdown with the Nautilus to allow that Ezreal Jace combo to really land all their damage. And I'm happy to see De ban the Azir. I brought it up for a reason. They do well with scaling, and Azir is kind of lost some favor with the item changes. Made some of his items a little bit more expensive, but still enjoying a very high win rate, 60% in tier 1 and tier 2 play. So still a very good pickup as Hui going to get banned as well, going after a lot of these control mages.
And it makes sense. Again, you don't want to give any proper usage over in that mid lane. We saw the Orianna do very well. We saw the Swain do as well. I'd almost be looking at maybe a Syndra ban if you really want to take away another chain CC at the end. But it is going to be the Viego ban. We're looking at that kind of all-around early game, or not early game, but good steamrolling from Pookie Bear. So the Viego makes sense. A twist into the Wukong, disallowing Esports to have that engage tool. All of these I like. Good identification. But the last jungle, at least for Esports, is going to be a Nefiri.
I was looking at the list and I was trying to think past Nefiri, what is really up and available that is being played at a high level. I also mentioned this during our break when we were chatting. Nefiri currently sitting at a 37% win rate. I feel like with the current balance of this champ, a lot of people don't really know where to have it. Are you going full assassin damage or tank? But it's not 15-12. The Lee Sin buffs are coming next patch, but once you get into these game 3s, you see all these other AD bruisers are taken away. Lee Sin is still very good, and I love Galio. It provides you so much follow-up, so much security, and it's not only that grand entrance, it is that massive taunt that you can get, and when you're playing up against a Nefiri, that taunt is going to completely nullify this champion.
Yeah, it's going to be annoying to deal with as well. You can also get relatively in range of a Sivir, but what are you going to play against it? What is that last pick here in the mid lane? It's an Ahri. Not as spicy as I would like, but also makes sense. You got a lot of the dashes. You can go ahead and make your way out. You can join in with the Nefiri if you get control over your lane. A lot of options here as Esports going back to a little bit of that tried and true tankiness into a team fight factor if they wish. Maybe doesn't as much HP to work with, but for Pookie Bears, they're rocking with a little bit of spice of their own. The Lee Sin and Jace really standing out to me.
Yeah, I like what De have built here, though, because that Karma, I'm a big fan of the Enchanter Karma route, because while the poke build is very effective early game, it tends to fall off just because you don't have the income to really build up a lot of those mage items that are necessary. And now, if able to go for that Moonstone, if able to get a redemption as well, you're not just going to be buffing up the Sivir and enchanting that damage ability. The Nefiri will also benefit greatly from having an Enchanter.
And being able to buff up and keep the Sivir alive will mean the late game Sivir is a real option as well. However, my question to you now becomes, is it going to be as quiet of an early game that we saw in game number 2, or are we going to see spice out the gate? Because both comps do have the ability to do either. I think both teams would, maybe not so much Pookie Bear, but they could sit there and say, hey, we have a little bit of time to work with. It's not impossible to reach into that mid game in a better situation, but definitely don't have late game scaling. Esports, though, they got scaling in spades. You got the Scion, you got the Sivir. Like, you kind of do want a relatively quiet if you're focusing on that bottom top. So do we get a quiet early game? Do we get a 13.5-minute, 14-minute first blood, or are we getting blood right out of the gate?
It's a great question because it depends on who you're asking. If you're asking,
right,
did esports, absolutely not. We want to do nothing for even more time, but Pookie Bear really needs to get going early. The Lee Sin necessitates early gold influxes and lane setup because there's no CC in the kit. And
he didn't see.
If they could cheese a kill here, it'd be great.
Yeah, he didn't see it, and now he's actually locked down, and he has no way out. That's just death. First blood handed to 4 River, and that's a 4-fun kill if I've ever seen it.
This is why I have been brought. I'm a prophet I'm telling you, they need to be aggressive early. They need to get gold into Lee Sin. What do
Yep.
they do? An early invade. So well done. It goes unsaid often, the amount of prep that can go into these games, and it's so easy when you load into a game, even a very high pressure win or go home game 3, that they could just come out 5-point whatever, but they say, hey, Sancho has been starting this way every game. If we walk this way, he's not going to see us in the tri-brush. We can get some early gold, and it is at the cost of getting a ward here. They will know where Lee Sin starts, but having that cloth armor, it is going to make those clears somewhat healthier. It is going to make it easier to regank top side because Sion's not really going to be able to trade anything back. And he doesn't have a lot of facilitation top side, but I wanted to note when you were talking about early kill pressure, the only thing stopping a Galio from getting a kill on Ahri pre-level 6 is how much mana Galio has. This champion, his base damages are so high that if they land a good taunt, this Ahri is done.
Yeah, you're kind of locked out of that position, but of course we'll have to wait and see if reality speaks the same. Junglers starting on opposite sides of the map once again, but 4 River actually being tracked very, very well because of that early invade with all 5. A positioning ward was laid down. I believe that actually came out of Jason down there. Redemption dropped that ward, so kind of makes sense to keep eyes on where that Lee Sin's going to go and maybe get a little bit extra. There we go, though. That is going to be a taunt. Winds of War not landing on 2, though. It's actually Sean that eats a lot more of that damage. Minion, though, saving Hamza from taking that hook.
Yeah, I just want to zoom out for a moment, take a look at some of these keystones with that summon Ahri for the Karma. Makes it a little bit more likely that we are going to be seeing that Enchanter.
Oh, boy.
Oh, here comes 4 River.
Yep, and it's an easy jump in as well. That's going to be a jump level 3, though. And it's a free kill number 1. Another catch option, though. But down goes Jason. Really clean. Not only that, you knock the flash out of Hamza. Big pickups for the side of Pookie Bears.
Really well executed, too, because, I mean, if you're the side of the Esports, you would have thought there's a 0% chance that Lee Sin is on the spot side. Hasn't gone top at all yet, and unfortunately Vakin is just not in a position to challenge and take advantage of Lee Sin not going for those camps. So now 4 River is going to be able to go to that top quadrant, receive all of those camps, and the only disadvantage is, yeah, they're not going to spawn as early, so you're not going to get those leveled up camps on that next rotation, but he'll absolutely take a kill in exchange for that. I want to go back to a point I was quickly wanting to make about this Ezreal, and we were talking about how they did so well having a scaling pick. For early damage, I really like to see Ezreal's go for lethal tempo. It gives you so much more power in the laning phase, but if you want to scale into the mid and late game, that Conqueror allows you to put out damage for so much longer later in the game because of that extra sustain you have. So I like that decision here for Kita.
I mean, we're only going to see even more of it. That Conqueror could be the make or break difference as Hamza is going that lethal tempo. Has to if you're running Sivir. But Hamza has actually opted for the Cole, which is, it makes sense. You're a Sivir, so it's like, hey, that is what I'm going to do to farm. But the fact that we're seeing it here so early, even though you lost slashes on both, leans into the fact that, they're saying Kita and Che aren't going to be doing anything. Nice spell shield to go ahead and slow them down. Che is also not going to get tethered, as it is broken at the end of the day. We can damage either way. We're starting to see those stat checks, those skill checks between the two, as Dragon will be up in just about 10.
Yeah, when you asked me earlier about the kill threat in this game, typically when you see a hook champ against double ranged with an enchanter, you think that the hook champ is going to have a very easy time picking off those isolated squishy range supports. But when it is Sivir Karma, have that Mantra W to heal up or just the Mantra Shield to stay healthy. Sivir using that spell shield can just avoid so much of that CC and damage. So it does make it a little bit more difficult for Nautilus as 4 River is hitting this dragon, and while Vakin was in the area, opts not to check it, knows that they don't have the push, and they're just going to give over the first Drake.
Yeah, I don't think you can contest at all. Like, you can even see Vakin is just like, let's just clear, let's just keep farming up, which is what you do need to do. It's a hex deck. It's not the end of the world. It's a nice little boost, though, in the attack speed and ability haste for the side of Pookie Bears. Namely, though, this is going to be a Cloud Dragon to come up next, meaning we can get some explosive souls to play with. That leaves, I think, Infernal on the table, plus Ocean, both that can be huge game changers.
Yeah, and even something along the lines of a Mountain Dragon as well. This Scion, you're having the full lethality Jace, not going to be able to pick up too much shred. I guess you're going to maybe get a Black Cleaver for Lee Sin, and then Ezreal, you don't have a lot of DPS. So if this Scion can get ahead, start building up a lot of armor and HP, could be a problem in the foreseeable future, as backing on a ward, Vakin does have that. W, though, goes invulnerable. Just going to run out of that as Royal. I'm happy to see Royal back on a really aggressive champion that can impact the entire game and not just going to be a more passive lane bully pick. Still has the lane bully aspect, obviously, on Jace, but going to be able to transition very well into the mid and late game.
Yeah, gonna be happy about that one. Not only that, looking to farm up even further. Picked up a late Cole. In terms of early game advantages, has a lot to go. I mean, you're covering what? I want to say you're looking at 140, 150 CS before that fully clears. That's aiming for a pretty healthy amount here. On the bot side, though, we're seeing Kita and Che go ahead and hang out, clear another wave. They're doing okay, keeping pace. But the junglers are the ones to actually meet up. It's a low 5 versus level 6. Vakin just now hitting level 6, but meets Royal in there. Tries to go invulnerable, but that immediately eats a little bit more. Good kick to land. I think that's more than enough, even with the punch coming in. Double taunt on follow-up, as this cascade of death is not going to be met well. Hamza, though, joins on in because the lane rotate, but the damage has been done. Sean is now going to punch back, has the spell rotation. Kick misses, though. So everyone is going to get out scot-free. What a wash of battle, as it is Pookie Bears to come out with a 2-0.
Yeah, no trade able to come through, just not enough damage on these champs yet. Ari sitting on the Lost Chapter, mostly a sustain item, and Hums just has that slingshot and the call. And unfortunately, it doesn't hit that hook. So he's not going to be able to get the kill on that wraparound. Could have been disastrous if they were able to get a kill and push this lane in, but going to be able to just keep farming up, as it's getting to a pretty dangerous state where for River, if they get a little bit more gold, they're going to be able to take this bottom quadrant, and with the push coming in the top lane, could contest these grubs. I'm not sure if they're going to be in position to do so, though.
I mean, if anything, you're looking for a little bit extra, but it might not be even for River. You can see Che and Kita. Like, we're going to force you off. One was taken, though. Vakin was able to deny all three, which is a nice piece. However, it still feels bad. Vakin is currently playing on the back foot. Definitely a lot different than they did with the Nocturne, which was even pace until they were ready.
I like that decision, though. That's really smart to recognize that they don't have the push permanently in that top lane. It's going to quickly go the other way. So when you're in this volatile game state, you're already down 1k. Let's just take the safe option. We can guarantee one grub and get out. It's the same decision that was made by Pookie Bears last game. And when we look at the draft that worked well for De, a lot of the framework is still here. They don't have nearly as proactive a bottom lane, sure. Hums is going from your win con in the mid and early to more of a late game insurance policy, but you still have playmaking on the Ari and even on the Scion abilities, the ability to have massive knockups, have these massive ultimates. Jason just not respecting what Shay could do there.
I mean, it's a nice pull, though. Once again, now all of a sudden it's Jason that's going to be in a dangerous position. You aren't allowed to really step up in there. But this is a little bit of turnaround. It is going to be the depth charge being used, but behind the minions, it's good. Good auto, though, into the shield from Jason. Jason might barely be able to stay alive, but that puts Hamza in a dangerous spot. TP coming in a little bit late, but they turn it around. Hamza and Jason turn the fight in more ways than one. TP coming in, but it's just to deter any other fighting. What a play by the bottom lane. Of course, round two might not be as comfortable. Catapult with a great charm to deny, but they're going to leave Hamza to the wolves. Down goes the Chomp in for River, now on a killing spree.
They're trying to cross map here. They did Esports play that so well, playing on the absolute limit, so impressive, but now they're trying to make this cross map happen.
Oh, and the cross map might not even be necessary. It was just a TP. Royal gifted yet again. This is almost reminiscent of game one.
They didn't learn. Do not dive, Royal. You will live to regret it, and you won't live for much longer once you do it. Now, that's his second kill, and we were talking about how much CS it was going to take to finish that call. He's over halfway done already. This is going to be an extremely accelerated Jace going towards that first lethality item, and now that we're already breaking out of these traditional lanes, already use that teleport to get back top lane to continue farming, Jace might not be at this next dragon fight, but if they're able to secure this Cloud Drake and get those two, would be the first time in the series that one team was able to secure both of the first two dragons. We'd then be looking at potentially a Rift Herald fight where Jace would be able to join and going to be much more useful than this early game Sunfire Cape Scion.
I just, this, it feels so bad. Seeing the 6 kills to 1 is just one of those feelings that you're like, dang, things got out of hand very quickly. Now, it's not like it's impossible, right? We're only seeing a 1.6k lead. You're kind of mentioning that shift, but the big shift is in the dragons, as we are going to get a Chemtech soul to play for. Pain is in the eyes. That is a dragon that obviously is not exactly wanted, but if given to a team that's already ahead, gives them great team fighting potential.
Yeah, especially when you look at the damage profile of the Esports. With the Ahri, has this Malignance, damage is going to fall off at a certain point in the Fury, just like any AD Bruiser, going to fall off in damage. And so you're going to have to really wait until Sivir comes online to be able to get through a lot of these champs. And so having that damage reduction for some champions like Nautilus, like Galio, is going to make them seem even tankier. Same thing with Lee Sin, having some of that sustain with the W, able to keep themselves up and alive, maybe proc multiple Eclipse shields, just going to get pretty, it's going to get difficult to deal with as the game progresses.
I can agree with that one. At the current moment, though, seeing the damage control be done here, the entirety of the squad is kind of slowing down for the Esports. Taking things at a nice pace, just trying to make sure Vakin gets some good farm. They're still matching pace, but they need to break through on those 7. They want to get that 1200 smite for the upcoming global objectives, and that will be a nice piece of play. But Sanchovi's starting to get kind of weaned off their HP bar, and Sanchovi's, I think, is realizing that they're not in a great spot. And so they go ahead, burn the Unstoppable Onslaught. While that's happening, Hamza as well as Jason were able to stay up on the top side, gather up a plate for themselves. So better stacking. Until Wild Arrows in tow as well. Charm, though, landing on Shay as a Catapult is just like, please stop trying to fight me.
Yeah, I really like what Esports is doing with these lane assignments. They keep the Ahri mid lane and just try and avoid Galio, because the Galio with that Hallowed Radiance is going to be not phased by Ahri at all. Meanwhile, they have Hums up on the top side, and for the majority of that last little push, they also had Vakin and Jason up here to protect Hums. So you look how forward they're pushing up. They're just getting as much CS into Hums as possible, trying to get towards those so crucial damage items that the Sivir really needs to come online. And maybe a dive we could see bottom lane, but there are so many members here. Che might be caught out.
Yeah, Che's not going to like that one. Tries to flash away to the rest of the team, but unfortunately, it's still a chase and a half. Kita now not in a great spot, flashing away from the charm even. Before River saying, hey, we can fight this one. In comes Jason and Hamza, though, and this might be a fight that you don't actually want. So it's a kick right back. Great dragon kick. But the rest of the team goes in. Now a taunt comes out, but only taunts on one, so Sean is in a bad place. All of a sudden, it's looking like the Esports have a great team fight. They force 3 away. Sean is in a bad spot. They will be sacrificed, and the Galio is deleted.
And they never really had the numbers together in that team fight. Looked a little bit over-eager for the side of Pookie Bears, and you're starting to see how this Naafiri can be effective, especially against a champion like Lee Sin. If you're not able to land the Sonic Boom, you're just not going to be able to get good positioning. And Vakin using those Wolf Pups so well to keep 4 River out of that fight. And I'm surprised that they turned and actually tried to make that fight happen. It really never looked like they were in a winning position, as they are going to be able to push Naafiri off of the Rift Herald and thank Vakin for the leash as they pick it up for themselves.
I think that means one of two things. Either, you know, we're looking at Pookie Bears and they're saying, hey, we're getting a little bit desperate. We have to take all the fights we can if we want to kind of expand into that mid game. Or two, they're limit testing. One of the things that I would lean into, though, is the former, because right now we're looking at pretty much gold even state. It's only 600 difference. Granted, the 1.6 3 wasn't that much of a big difference either. You're only looking like a couple components each in terms of difference, but a good climb back, a good solid climb back from Esports. They're going ahead looking at this mid lane yet again, and Dragon up in about 35, so the next team fight might be just around the corner.
As that BF sword does hums. So starting to take advantage of all of that CS that has been funneled into the champion. Looking at some other item completions. Triforce and a nearly completed Tear of the Goddess for Kita. Has been implementing a similar tactic where just been sitting mid lane trying to get as much farm as possible, trying to just get towards some of these items as a bit of a bait being laid in the bot side for River, trying to get this Scion to walk in. Dragon is up though, so any missteps here, giving numbers advantage over could be terrible at a time like this. Dragon has now been hit.
I think we're really taking a look at where Sean is going to be. Sean has no TP, but has a Gallia ultimate that can play for this vac and starting up the Dragon. TP coming in possibly for a cat involved. There it is. I have future side, if you will. That does force a player advantage. Herald was dropped. Are they going to drive it in? Yes, they are. Is it going to be a smite steal? Yes, there is. Four River has stolen it, and that's a drive and a half with a Herald in tow. It's a 16-5, which feels illegal, but illegal as just anything goes to take the victory. Double taunt by Sean. Out goes Jason as they are deleted as well. And that is a 3-for-0 with that Dragon Smite steal. Pookie Bear with a game 3 changer.
What an unbelievable play by 4 River. This is really the only way that a champ like Lee Sin can be played in this pro environment. Hasn't been meta for quite some time now, but if you are mastered enough on the champion, you can make plays like that happen where he gets into the pit and then not only gets the steal, but the double kick, knocking up both frontliners. Not only both frontliners, the only frontliners. So once Neferi and Scion are down, Ahri has to turn tail. Sivir doesn't even have damage yet, let alone the ability to survive. And Karma's just scrambling, trying to get everyone out. So they walk away with Soul Point and 2 more kills. And, you know, it's a little bit later into the game. Then when in game 1 we started getting nervous. But if we look at Royal, has that Muramana trying to get towards that full evolution, sitting on the Yumu's. You know, this is really getting to a dangerous spot for De to come back from.
I mean, it's not just that. I mean, my eyes are really drawn to that Dragon status, that steal. That takeaway actually put Pookie Bear into a 3-Dragon state. They're looking at Soul Point, which now means even if the gold is even, even if the gold becomes dead even by some difference in the towers or anything like that, we still know where Esports are going to be in the next 3 minutes. We know where they're going to be sitting. We know what they're going to be fighting for. It's such an obvious state, which, you know, yes, game number 1 was so one-sided, but this one feels a lot more predictable in where the teams are going to meet up.
Yeah, and when you have a champion that wants to scale like Sivir and really wants a passive game state, being able to force a fight in any situation is advantageous, but when it's something like a Dragon Soul, it's not like you can just give that over. That is really damaging, as back in taking up a decent amount of attention trying to save this turret. But just seeing the champions that they have available to them in this mid lane, Karma and Sivir on 1.5 items, there's just no chance they're going to be able to contest. So I'm glad to see them not get a little bit overzealous and try and actually go for a fight there.
Yep. Just try and play it smart once again, as Otacon is now unleashed. Thornbound Otacon ready to be taken in the top lane. If we wish to see it go down, it can be done. But at the current moment, it's a small price that they have to pay. It's a comfortable one at that. As you can see, the rest of the Esports roaming around on that top side. But the entirety of Pookie Bears saying, okay, we got to go save Sean. Sean now getting ganked here on the top side. It is going to be a nice true shot barrage, though, landing to draw a little bit extra damage, but Sean able to relinquish that tower without losing their life.
Going to be a minute 37 seconds until we get to Dragon Soul. Has to be on everyone's minds right now. And we did mention, you know, Chemtech, not the most game-changing soul, but any soul is going to be strong especially this early into the game. Still 4 minutes till Baron spawns, so having access to that buff this early into the game is going to make it even more difficult to come back from. And when we look at the win condition for De, it is obviously that 300 CS Sivir that everyone memes about, but it isn't just, it's not as simple as hitting that number. The Sivir needs to be able to have uptime. And looking at the champions on the side of De, if Ahri doesn't land a good charm, if Sion doesn't find a good knockup, there isn't really much allowing Sivir to stay autoing the enemy champions, because Galio is going to make it difficult for you to stand near him. Nautilus is going to be a constant CC threat, same with Lee Sin. Jace and Ezreal you're never going to be in range of. So it's not just going to be about hitting that marker. It's going to be about how Hums executes in these fights.
At this point, those bouncing boomerangs can do so much work if put in the right space. They can bounce around, they can land on some very chunky heads, start turning the fights around for the side of Di, as you were talking about. But right now, a little bit of indie to get vision down. Di Esports putting themselves in a precarious position back, and now recognizing that they might not be able to get to that plate in time. Good hit by 4 River, landing on that kick, and that's back in now in the spicy fight. Great ult from the Galio, though. Over the wall you go, though. 4 River get in the mix, but they flash and take them out. Cat involved, trying to run the jungler out, but Sanchovi's flashing back over the wall to get to safety with the rest of the team, but a flash over the wall by Sean to say, no, we flash on in for the battle. You ain't running away from us. This is Pookie Bear saying, we rule the forest. You better stay away from our food. Cat involved wins a war to take them, and it's a 3-0 for the side. 4-0, I take that back, for the side of Pookie Bear. Dragon secured as well. Everything that Pookie Bears could ask for, they have gotten.
Yeah, they're going to be able to cross map 2 and try and make a play on Otacon. I see this happen so often where players think that correctly, if we get a pick and we have a numbers advantage, even though we're a little bit behind, we'll be able to contest this upcoming objective. But if you don't have the damage to actually make that pick happen, all you're doing is putting yourself out of position. So they dive onto the Nautilus and they can't actually kill him. So that Galio ult comes in, and now you're just sitting in your enemy team's jungle, and 4 River is able to follow them into the pit. They did a little switcheroo. Sanchovi's flashed into the pit. Lee Sin got out of it, but then the flash followed by Sean is able to just pull them all so far down, and we are nowhere close to this Sivir being able to change the course of a fight. So going to have to be another objective just seeded, as they will trade the Otacon for a bounty on the bottom turret. Sanchovi's
Poor Sanchovi's. Sanchovi's just wanted to watch, man. Sanchovi's is like, bro, I'm just a meatball. Leave me alone. Let me cook for a little bit. Everyone's like, nah, I'm eating early right now. Very nice pickup. Quick kill on the Sanchovi's, and that should also mean the top side tower going down. Hums and Jason trying to take a tower of their own, just trying to get a little extra gold back. Still, though, this is starting to unravel very quickly for Pookie Bears. They're starting to enjoy this game a little bit more.
There is going to be a decent amount of gold going back. 477 for each of those bot laners. Should be able to get Jason towards that next item. Ironically, it's probably going to be a redemption for the guy whose in-game name is Redemption. And then with that gold going on to Sivir as well, has the longsword, so I'm not sure if they're building towards most likely an LDR or Mortal Reminder coming up next, opting to not go for that Zeal item right away, as, yep, with that Last Whisper going to most certainly be one of those armor shred items. And looking at some other item completions, I'm surprised to see the Ahri going for that Leandries. With the most recent AP nerf to the item, you almost always see it going onto champions that either utilize heavy DPS and can constantly apply it, or when you're playing against a bunch of champions building AP. And as of right now, none of those really seem to be the case, so I guess we're just opting to get a little bit more sustain and health onto this Ahri, recognizing that their job is more so to find fights rather than to burst damage.
Gotta make sure to keep their eyes looking forward. As some of us like to say in the industry, eyes on the prize, right?
Absolutely. And right, we were talking earlier about how early the Dragon Soul was. It's not only an early Dragon Soul, 3 minutes till Elder. So yeah, Baron's an option, but it does give some
Oh.
options to Esports to try and get back in this game, as we do have a brief pause. Looks like top lane having some connection issues.
Yep. Let's go ahead and maybe we head back to our faces as well, just to kind of get an eye on things. I'm wondering exactly how far this is going to go though, because we saw earlier how the side of Pookie Bears, their composition can fall apart if you're not watching respectively. Like there are some points where you can get caught out. Nefiri can pop off. We've seen Nefiri's quite literally like team wipe before if you have enough items. So there is theoretically a spot where the esports are able to turn it around. Remember, they have the late game scaling. I will give them that. Yes, the Elder might change things. Yes, so obviously change the bank, but if given enough time and if the game isn't ended as quickly, we will see a team fight worthy. So my question is, should the side of Pookie Bears be worried? Should they start looking to try and close this out even without Elder, or are they able to wait for the likes of Baron, for the likes of Elder? You know, wait for these mega buffs to be able to kind of roll their way in comfortably.
I think I, I like your usage of the term wait, because I think the way they do win is by not taking the objectives, but setting up around them. Because
Mm.
even for all the scaling they do have, they don't have any hard engage. So if you get to an objective first and Nautilus and Galio are able to kind of put up a wall, you've got all that Jason Ezreal poke to come through. It's going to be quite difficult for them to actually play out a fight walking through Ezreal and Jace damage, being so afraid of where is Lee Sin. And sure, as you mentioned, Lee Sin's going to fall off eventually. That damage isn't going to be as meaningful, but he's still going to have access to that ultimate, that kick, that misposition that he's already shown
Yeah.
such a great ability to use. So I really think it's about positioning for Pookie Bears if they want to close out this game.
All right, I can agree with that one. I mean, Lee Sin is quite literally all about positioning, right? You got to be in the right position to be able to get the kick, get the Lee Syndrome off, get the insec, and I want to spot eyes again on Four River because you talked about the angles on the Lee Sin. This Lee Sin has looked out of the world right now. A Dragon Steel plus positioning plus team fight angles, it's been amazing. And then heads up also to Che, who had a great Herald drive, but that whole team fight really felt like it started with Four River and this Lee Sin we're going to keep watching most likely be the absolute brutalizer at the end of the day. 6-0-7 right now.
Yeah, and sitting on a massive shutdown. But problem is, Lee Sin, to do anything, has to jump in full force. So going to be putting themselves constantly at risk. Kicking in Jason now. Oh my god.
Oh, deleted. Doesn't even matter about Sanchovies, even though Sanchovies isn't there. But now Vakin is in a really weird spot. But because Vakin has to leave, I don't know if I can even challenge on the Baron. This is a Baron in the face of the enemy jungler. However, there is going to be a little bit of a chance back. Sean now going to get another taunt off, but in goes the train, and the onslaught does nothing as that's Vakin down. Vakin has been back banned in this battle as down goes Hamza, and it's going to be a team fight wipe. The ace comes through. It's a triple for Royal, and Pookie Bears are mean with it.
I mean, they just played it so perfectly. They go up to the objective. First of all, incredible pick made onto Redemption there. Immediately gives them the numbers advantage and almost a free guaranteed Baron. But once those bouncers get over the, Galio and Nautilus are trying to push the dog out of the fight and literally just be like, hey, Nefiri, get out of here, this is ours. They recognize, wait a second, they actually want to fight us for this? We'll smash them. So they wait for the Scion to run in, they let everyone get close, and then Galio just as a big taunt does end up giving their life over, and that will be a shutdown into the pocket of Hums. But at the end of the day, you get a 4-man, you get an absolute ace for only one member going over, and you get the Baron buff. I think that they are very, very in favor of that position, especially seeing as they can use that Baron to push out these waves and then force an identical situation around the Elder Dragon that cannot afford to give over.
Dick can do nothing but watch. This game has spiraled out of control. We're looking at a 6K difference with more in the bank with Soul. Che wants it. That's going to be a taunt up. They're going to draw them in, and Kita is going to start mowing through the HP bar just like that. Sanchovies is eating like anchovies. That is ridiculous damage here. Another hook goes out. Hamza trying their best to stay alive, but that's a redemption caught, and Jason goes on down. A little bit of miscommunication, and Sean's like, yo, we want to keep going in, and Sean's like, oh crap, maybe I can't do that. Tower is still going to wreck shop. Sean flashes away to stay safe. And it is Pookie Bears to keep their mid laner alive. Overall, one of the more blunt ways to break a tower, but it breaks.
Super unfortunate too, because I mean they just put Sanchovies in the bounce house. Nothing you can really do about that situation, especially with all the damage that they have on their team right now. But they were in a decent spot to contest the Elder because of the unsealed spellbook. They would have had 2 smites compared to the 1 on the side of Pookie Bears, and they have to contest this. Sanchovies has to get that teleport back, meaning they won't have access to the smite as quickly. They're wasting all this time getting wards. Dragon's at 5k.
Dragon means nothing in the face of overwhelming power. Auto attacks galore, flash for the finish, and it's another 3 gone. As guess what? River says, you guys go and fight. I will take the objective. Elder on 5, as this is a victory lap for Pookie Bears.
Up, Sanchovies running down, trying to get this wave. Hits the recall animation, didn't know where they were.
Oh, even the kick! Even the kick to go ahead and finish him off. Redemption from Redemption came in way too late. There ain't no redemption in that. A taunt comes out as Redemption falls. It's a belayed ace for the side of Pookie Bears.
They have the wave here. This may not be the end of the game as Vakin and Hums are up and available, but the only saving grace. Let's look at the upsides for Esports here. They do have this Baron expiring soon, but Four River was hoping that Nefiri would take one more step forward. Not going to be able to get that kill right now. As I mean, just can't catch a break.
Nope. Absolutely not. That is a 1-6-2 Nefiri we were mentioning, and you talked about it, right? Like some of the upsides. Those upsides are in a very narrow scope of view right now because everything else is burning around them. This is Esports recognizing that unless a miracle occurs, they're really not in any good position. A little bit of push in mid lane. Inhibitor tower is going to take a lot of damage, but top side is currently prepped. At a 27-4 scoreline, we're looking at the last of the outer towers to fall here as Royal is having a ball. Cat and Bald might not want to stay here, does have the Spirit Rush to stay alive. Good jukes to the side. The powered shock blast to the back of the head. Recognizing that they're not in a great spot. Kita, though, cheating in on this mid lane. Another jump in as Cat and Bald lands the charm, but look at that. Huge helping of safety from the rest of the team as Pookie Bears just say no. No one on our side will die today.
Yeah, but we're actually starting to see some damage coming out of Hums there. Was able to get Kita quite low while the rest of the team was retreating. So do have some access to damage. Not the same can be said about the Nefiri. We talked about it a lot early in this game. Both teams opting for junglers that need early gold to stay relevant. And while obviously the 7-0-13 Lee Sin got that, the 1-6-2 Nefiri was not as lucky. So now has 2 items, Spear Sojin, Black Cleaver, just really becoming a glorified, generic AD bruiser, except doesn't have access to nearly as many tools as you see an accelerated shock blast. Half healths, Hums. Doesn't really matter if the Sivir starts dealing damage, if they're getting chunked out before every major fight, and 50 seconds on the Baron means that they are going to be walking into another Pookie Bear blender. Perfect situation for Pookie Bears here.
I'm loving the fact that we're also seeing the upgrades on the boots. The only 2 that haven't are Sean and Che. These 2, neither really wants to upgrade them. They're just still picking it up. I haven't seen a warding totem in ages, by the way. That is, Che picked that up. Are you kidding me? That warding box is just, it's such a, that's so interesting.
Yeah, he knows that the only way they lose is if they can't set up on an objective. So if they're able to get as much vision down as possible, they're going to completely mitigate that sole opportunity. And it's so rare you see supports able to build more than a couple items. is able to grab this here as the Baron is just going to absolutely melt. The Esports have no opportunity, or no option but to fight for it.
Yeah, and Sanchovy says, I can only hold out for so long, guys, but Che on the backside is keeping Catapult busy, and that means damage will be wrecked, and Havoc will be around. Vakin tries to steal the Dome Royal, but it's not going to happen. Cat evolved, dead once again. Baron doesn't matter, as that is Pookie Bears to run straight through with an ace. They fought back against the odds. Game number 2 looked difficult. Game number 1 was all theirs, and they repeated once again. Not only that, with a rematch against Galaxy Gaming in the lower bracket semis, a full BO5 on the way, Pookie Bears are right back in it.
Had one little hiccup there in the middle, but pretty much complete domination for the side of Pookie Bears. And I mean, I think it can't go understated. You know, this was elimination. This was win or go home to stay alive in the ACL. And for a team of guys who have been playing at this level, you know, there's over 3.5K on the table right now. And these guys still look hungry for it. They still are in the running. And as you've been mentioning, with that rematch up and available now, Galaxy Gaming is a very, very tough squad to play against. So I'm sure they're happy for the opportunity to get their lick back.
And not just that, shout out to the side of the Esports. They fought hard. They gave us a match. Game number 2, stalwart denial of any sort of options. They played it as slow as possible. They played it comfortably. They fought back. But I mean, that explosiveness, we were missing it, right? And shout out to Vakin stepping in for games 2 and 3. Big, big shout out there. It wasn't enough at the end of the day. Feels kind of bad.
Yeah, and I think despite their scoreline certainly was incredible this last game, but didn't have as much as a front-facing performance. I think my player of the series does still have to go to Royal. That first
Yep.
game was unbelievably disgusting, and while, like I said, they might have not had as many flashy plays this game, incredible scoreline on the Jace, won topside handedly. Sanchovi's really never had an angle to get back into this game, so Royal, going to be interesting to see him going up against Cozy next week.
It'll be fun. It'll be fun. But tomorrow comes. We are going to be done for the ACL here tonight. It has been a joy and a treat to be able to cast here on the Salt Mine. Thank you so much for tuning in to the Aegis Champions League as we did just cover the lower bracket quarters. Congratulations to the side of Pookie Bears. Unfortunate loss. We will bid farewell to DIT Esports. My name is Orbital. With me has been Jack. Shout out to Hummus on production. Thank you so much for tuning in with us, and we'll see you all next time.